Welcome to our special council meeting on June 16th, 2026. I'm going to ask everybody in the chamber to please take their conversations outside. The meeting is starting. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss 100 Victoria Street encampment, and I'll now call on Tim Brubaker, Regional Clerk, to conduct the roll call.
Thank you. Chair Redmond.
Present.
We have regrets from Councillor Craig, Councillor Erb, Councillor Foxton, Councillor Gowing.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick. Present. Councillor James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen. Councillor Shantz is behind the wall, but I can hear her. Councillor Verbanovic is running late, and Councillor Wolf. Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, and the Chinootan or neutral peoples. In doing this, I want to reflect on what it means to be doing important community work which we are engaging in collectively today, and also in my own individual relationship to this land. As a settler, one of the most important aspects of my individual journey towards truth and reconciliation has been to listen. I am continually grateful to a community who shares their stories and their concerns with me. As well as chair of the region, I know I carry a responsibility to ensure that it is not just myself on an individual level listening and acting, but that as a government, we are listening and creating action with community. I'm offering this acknowledgement as one of the many actions I personally and the region largely is taking on our journey towards reconciliation. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous peoples with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. Colleagues, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will now proceed to delegations. I would like to remind all delegates of some of the guidelines for participation. If you are attending in person, please proceed to the podium when you are called upon to speak. I will note we now have a new accessible podium that has the ability to be lowered and raised, and there's a button to the right of the podium as you face the chair. If you're attending virtually, please turn on your microphone and camera when called upon. You will have 5 minutes to speak if you registered before the deadline and 3 minutes if you registered afterwards. When the light on the podium turns yellow, that means you have 1 minute remaining. When the light turns red, that means your time is up and you should sum up. I may give you a reminder of your remaining time. Additionally, some of the general reminders, if you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate removal from the meeting. Interrupting council members, staff, or other delegations. Derogatory statements about councillor, staff, or others. Turning on your microphone or camera at inappropriate times, and hate speech or defamatory comments. Please also note that election campaigning or endorsement of any elected candidates during your delegation presentation is not permitted. One last reminder for delegations. Please do not take offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to really listen and reflect upon the opinions and the ideas shared with us from our community members. And a quick reminder to members of the audience. You are asked to maintain order. This means you may not address council without the permission of the chair, interrupt anyone, disrupt the meeting with unreasonable noise or vocal expression such as applause, booing, or cheering, or displaying posters or signs. Our first delegation today is Eleanor Maxwell from Kitchener. Eleanor, I believe you're with us in person. Please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Am I on mic? Yes, I am. And it's the right height. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Eleanor Maxwell. A retired teacher, has lived in Kitchener for over 40 years, and it's been a great community to raise a family. During my research for this presentation, I learned a lot. I was planning to provide a lot of information about or concentrate on solutions, but modular housing with wraparound services, including mental health, drug addiction treatment, employment skills training, job search, etc., is a known model, and I'm sure there are others. The key being that it's a transition housing to permanent housing. When CBC did a series on this topic a few years ago, a business in Seattle was featured. Modular homes arrived in a flat pack, sort of like IKEA, I think, and were erected in 30 minutes. And I did see the video. It is real. Support services were required for each project, meant to be a transition to permanent housing. I'm sure a Canadian company, and it maybe exists right now, using Canadian lumber, could match any such undertaking. An article on CBC News a few days ago covered the great work that Supportive Housing of Waterloo, under Director Brian Paul, is doing. 10 homes for older adults is a terrific start. Therefore, awareness of solutions is not really the problem. I guess my focus is implementing those solutions is the hard part, especially with such a deeply complicated societal issue. Which brings me to the current situation of the encampment at 100 Victoria Street in Kitchener, in existence since late 2021. I agree with a judge who ruled recently that occupants of the encampment cannot be evicted unless there is somewhere for them to go. They are the most vulnerable people in our society. Not helping them reflects very negatively, on our society and at an enormous economic cost. The conflict interest with the vital transportation hub to be built on that site is an example of that cost. How did we get to this impasse? And I've written it in bold: lack of action, which has exacerbated the problem. The statistics tell the story. 200 people were on the wait list for supportive housing in 2018. Now 650 people are on the wait list today. The time for talk is past. We must act with speed and determination. I know it's a complicated issue, finding land, costs, etc. The City of Kitchener received a check, if I may be so bold, for over $8 million last week for exceeding housing construction targets. That is fantastic. Perhaps some of that money could be used, along with contributions from other municipalities in the region. Fundraising donations is another option. The point is, action is needed now for both humanitarian and economic reasons. Let me briefly address those who might say that the unhoused are responsible for their dire situation. Not everyone has the same opportunity in life. Think about those who have mental health issues or were prescribed OxyContin by a physician and for severe pain, and developed an addiction, or grew up in a home where alcohol was easily available, or lost their employment or homes for any number of reasons. If a person drops in the street with a heart attack, we dial 911, administer CPR. We don't ask whether they ate a lot of junk food or have had an unhealthy lifestyle. We render assistance without thinking, we act. To further explore that metaphor, we must meet this urgent moment and call it an emergency. We must dial 911 and bring all our resources to bear on ending homelessness in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we do have a question, Eleanor.
Yes.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for your compassionate delegation and trying to come up with solutions. And right now I'm going to take the opportunity to thank the many delegates who have come out today to speak, because your voices matter. You are here to defend the Charter of Rights of some of the most vulnerable members of our community, and that takes courage, compassion, and conviction. I want to recognize that and thank you for that. We are here to talk about homelessness, but more importantly, we are here to talk about people. People who do not have the safety of stability or dignities of permanent homes, people whose lives are already shaped by hardship and systemic barriers. And I'm saying this now so I don't have to say it after each delegation, because I know some of council has time things, but I want to say how much I appreciate, and I think council does, that it takes courage to come here as a delegate. It takes a time commitment. It takes compassion, as I've said. And I'd like to thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
So, Eleanor, I would just like to echo Councillor Wolf's comments that you have come with heart and compassion as well as solutions. So thank you very much. Those are the only questions I have, so you can resume your seat.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Acer Bonaparte. Acer is from Kitchener. I believe Acer is in person, and they can make their way to the podium. You have the floor, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, Council. I come to you on this Tuesday morning, last minute, having rescheduled my day around this. I understand the optics of, we are listening to you and giving you your own meeting sound good, but you also could have made it so the people who are being paid to be here, staff and council, could have the early morning and switch the agendas so the community wouldn't have to scramble, but regardless, I'm here. We didn't have to get to this point. We really didn't. Homelessness is a symptom of society's decay and inadequacies. It is caused by failings at every level of government and our current social order. It disproportionately affects those who are marginalized and living with intersectional identities, with racialized folks, Indigenous folks, disabled folks, and queer folks overrepresented. While the blame isn't all on your hand, you've had every opportunity to act, and instead you've dragged your heels, and boy, have you consulted. Countless experts have given you their input on how to alleviate the problems we face relating to homelessness, and a lot of them will tell you that we need to build community with unhoused folks. Studies have shown the importance of long-term, stable community in improving outcomes from homelessness. 100 Vic has been this long-term, stable community, and yet you're still intent on tearing down 100 Vic, evicting everyone who lives there. And I hope no unhoused people have any trauma over being evicted. But you're intent on this path, and I know I can't sway you at this point. So let's talk about it. You've asked 2 judges now. In both cases, your ask was simple: tell us what to do. You seem to be asking that a lot and never actually following through, but again, whatever. Now 2 judges have told you exactly what to do, and you're not doing it. You seem to be waiting for the province for themselves to step in. That's what they're threatening to do. And you know what? I don't feel like you've been very honest with me, but I'm going to be very honest with you. You can't wash your hands of this. Today you will hear from community members who you have failed. I hope you listen well. I hope you consider what horrors bringing the hand of the province into this would cause. I hope you consider the implications of appealing a ruling like the decision Gibson passed down. But my faith in you all is pretty low, and coming from me, that's saying something. So do what you can while you can.
Thank you, Acer. I see no questions, but thank you very much for delegating. Next delegation is Theo Zhu from Waterloo, and Theo, you are here in person, so as you make your way to the podium, the floor is yours, and you have 5 minutes for your delegation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still disappointed to be here. I'm still frustrated to be here. When I began paying attention to the problem of council trying to evict 100 Vic, I didn't grasp the depth of the apathy of the people who had the power to actually effect permanent change. I don't have more statistics for you today. I don't have more appeals to your sense of goodness, your sense of duty to your community members. All I really have to say is, if you don't instate safe tenting, if you choose to try to appeal this decision, if you choose to let Premier Ford walk into this community and decide what is best for us when he doesn't know anything, I hope every time that you wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep, you think of the people on the street who don't sleep for days on end because they don't feel safe or there are rats scurrying around in their tents. I hope every time you walk outside and you think, oh, it's a little rainy, it's a little cold, it's a little warm. You think of the people who are exposed to those conditions 24/7 and have nowhere else to go, or in your words, there are cooling centers, there are warming centers available, just not at all times of the day, and especially not at night, when you would think that that would be most crucial. I hope that when you look at your children and your grandchildren, you know that you have sentenced them to live in a worse world and that you had a direct hand in this. That's all.
Thank you, Theo. I have no questions. The next delegation is Joanna Mullen, Waterloo Regional Legal Services. And Joanna, you're here in person. You have the floor and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the need for a safe tenting protocol in the region of Waterloo. I am a lawyer with Waterloo Region Community Legal Services, and I acted as co-counsel in the 2025-2026 litigation between the region and the residents at 100 Vic. My comments today are made without prejudice in terms of any future litigation. As you know, Justice Michael Gibson determined that the region's request to close the encampment at 100 Vic violated the charter rights of the encampment residents. However, the court provided an option by which the region may proceed with using that site as a laydown site for the Kitchener Central Transit Hub. The court's remedy for the region to comply with the charter is to create a safe tenting protocol or provide another piece of land similarly situated to 100 Vic where folks can tent. Before discussing safe tenting protocols further, I would like to go back to the numbers. As of the 2024 point-in-time count, which was the last comprehensive count performed here, there were 2,371 people experiencing homelessness in Waterloo Region. This number is the most accurate picture we have of those currently unhoused in the region, although it is still likely an undercount. The HIFIS numbers only capture those who have interacted with the housing stability system within the past 90 days. And as of the time of the court case, there were only 356 shelter beds. This means that the current shelter system can only accommodate 15% of those unhoused on any given night. Waterloo Region Community Legal Services wants everyone currently unhoused in the region to have a roof over their head and a room of their own, but that simply isn't possible right now. This is particularly in light of the region's decision in April 2026 to pause affordable housing construction projects, such as the one on Moorgate Crescent, while there are currently 11,421 applications for affordable housing. The wait time for subsidized housing in the region is 8 to 10 years. None of this changes without greater investment at all government levels into creating affordable housing for the people of Waterloo Region. Moreover, none of this changes by ignoring or overpowering the rights of encampment residents. This is not an either-or issue for the region. There have been negative comments made in the media which make it seem like the region is prevented full stop from proceeding with the KCTH because of the court's ruling. That is simply untrue. The region may proceed so long as there is somewhere else for people to go. Encampment residents should not, cannot be expected to float in the air, as one encampment resident told me. Until the number of beds meet the needs of the region's unhoused community members, there must be an alternative place of last resort for people to stay without being ticketed, fined, arrested, or displaced when there is nothing else available. Waterloo Region Community Legal Services is asking the region to follow the guidance in the plan to end chronic homelessness and commit to maintaining supported spaces while working to achieve functional zero homelessness. The Federal Housing Advocate has provided guidance on zones for encampments, which provides security of tenure, habitability, protection from the elements, privacy, available services, and cultural adequacy. The region should develop the safe tenting protocol in collaboration with the great minds at the co-creators table and the lived expertise prototyping cohort. The City of London's protocol is a good starting basis as it provides for tenting in groups of 6, service provisions, and wraparound supports. It has also clearly indicated no-go zones. It provides access to safe and clean drinking water, hygiene and sanitation facilities, waste management systems, social supports and services, including harm reduction services, food safety, rodent and pest prevention. At main service depots, residents can access food, water, washrooms, and garbages. I'm almost done. Can I just finish?
Okay, if you can sum up, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very close. It remains to be said that the region commenced the litigation last spring to seek guidance from the court as to whether the bylaw complied with the charter. After a year of expensive and time-intensive litigation, you now have your answer. The bylaw is not charter compliant. The court has told the region what is necessary to comply with the charter and use the site for the much-needed KCTH. We urge you to follow the guidance from the court and work with the PETCH collaborators to create the safe tenting protocol this community desperately needs. Thank you.
So Joanna, from your comments, I'm taking you are representing the Waterloo Regional Community Legal Services in these comments?
Yes, I'm here on behalf of our organization.
Thank you. We do have a question, Councillor James.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Joanna, thank you for coming in today. I'll have formal comments later, Chair, but my question for you, Joanna, is around the ideal place of last resort. Could you, what does that look like? In your words, what would an ideal place of last resort look like?
So some of that was in the comments that I made, that the City of London created a very comprehensive safe tenting protocol for their community. And it sets out some of the criteria that a place that is safe for folks to tent and what services are available. And so I listed some of those in my comments, but there's an idea of marrying this site with also having wraparound services so folks can receive the support that they need to transition out of homelessness into better options.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, just one follow-up. In terms of the wraparound services, in terms of resources for that, in the work that you do, where is the biggest gap in resources when it comes to some of those wraparound services that are required?
I'm not sure that I'm in the best position to answer that question. I think really the region would be better positioned, but I would also say that the co-creators table with PETCH, as well as the lived expertise prototyping cohort, would have answers to that better than I would.
Thank you.
Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in today. I'm a little interested in numbers. So you gave us an overview of the total number of homelessness that are on the books, if you'd like. that sounds really cold when you're talking about people. I'm sorry. Apologies for that. What I'm interested in is we're talking today mostly about place of last resort and how we can create a place like that. Do you have numbers of people that are in that particular situation right now?
So if my memory is correct, from the point in time count of the 2,371, I believe it was 1,009 who I also identified as living rough. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. That's all the questions we have. Thank you for coming in. The next delegation is Tanner Bergsma from Waterloo. Tanner, I know you're here in person. As you approach the podium, you have the floor in 5 minutes, and you probably need to raise the podium, being the tall person that you are.
This is going to take forever.
Sadly, we have no accompanying music, but it's pretty cool.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members of Regional Council, distinguished guests, and fellow residents. My name is Ambassador Tanner Evan Bergsma, and I am a youth delegate to the United Nations and co-founder of the Global Youth Sustainability Council. Today, I stand before you not only as an advocate, but as someone who deeply believes in democratic governance, accountability, and the proper relationship between municipalities, provinces, and the federal government. I rise today out of grave concern regarding the situation at 100 Victoria Street North and the growing discussion surrounding potential provincial interventions through the use of the extraordinary legislative powers of the notwithstanding clause. Let me be clear, this debate is about far more than one encampment. It is about whether municipalities in Ontario will retain the authority to govern matters within their own jurisdiction. It is about whether local governments elected by the local residents will continue to have a meaningful voice in decisions that directly affect their communities. And it is about whether governments will address homelessness through solutions or through symbolism. The region of Waterloo faces a housing and homelessness crisis that did not just emerge overnight. The crisis is a result of decades of underinvestment in affordable housing and supportive housing and vast variety of mental health services and addictions treatments and homelessness prevention. Municipalities are expected to respond to these challenges every day, yet they do not possess the constitutional powers or financial resources necessary to solve them alone. And that responsibility rests with all orders of government. The province of Ontario has jurisdiction over healthcare, mental health, addictions treatment, and municipal governance. And the Government of Canada possesses the fiscal capacity necessary to make transformational investments in housing and infrastructure. And municipalities are responsible for delivering frontline services and responding to the realities they see on the ground. Every level of government has a role to play. What concerns me today is the possibility that provincial intervention may occur without a comprehensive plan to address where individuals will go, what supports they will receive, and how municipalities will maintain control over decisions within their own communities. Because removing people from an encampment is not the same as ending homelessness, and displacement is not just a housing strategy. And political announcements are not suitable for permanent solutions. The Ontario Superior Court of Justice has already confirmed that municipalities must consider charter rights when considering to give accessible shelter alternatives when they are not available. And that ruling should actually serve as a reminder that homelessness is not simply an administrative issue. It is a matter of human dignity and public policy and constitutional responsibility. Today, I'm asking Regional Council to take a principled stand. First, I ask the Council to formally request increased provincial funding and resources to support transitional housing, homelessness, and response efforts, and the community services for individuals affected by the situation at 100 Victoria Street North through an open letter to the provincial government. And second, I ask that the Council to affirm that decisions regarding regional matters should remain under regional authority and that meaningful consultation must occur before any provincial intervention gets made. And third, I ask that the Council to call upon the Government of Canada to significantly increase investments in affordable housing. This is not just some partisan issue, and homelessness does not ask who someone voted for. The reality at the end of the day is that we face a risk of housing instability, and the region will lose its sovereignty and decision-making. It will, whether we like it or not, unless if we decide to take extensive action today. And to Premier Ford, I offer this respectful message. Municipalities are not obstacles to overcome. They are partners in government. Support municipalities, fund municipalities, work within municipalities, but do not undermine local decision-making without meaningful consultation and a comprehensive plan. And to the Government of Canada, municipalities cannot continue carrying a national housing crisis on property tax revenues alone. Municipalities are struggling, and I'm sick and tired of seeing them not have the resources that they need to be able to tackle issues like this. So we must invest further into resources to help them. The question before us today is not whether we can move the people, because that is not what is at play. We have to decide whether we can stand together as one to be able to do what's best for the people, and whether we will stand to protect our sovereignty and our people and our nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty much right on the money for timing, Tanner. We do have questions. Councillor James.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for coming in today, Tanner, and recognizing the shortfall with resources and you know, the way municipalities are disadvantaged. I know you know a lot about governance and legislation. I just want to, do you know that the Constitution doesn't even mention municipalities in it? It really puts everything in the hands of the province?
Absolutely, and the one thing that I keep seeing, I have done delegations across several different municipalities in Ontario, and it's the same thing. Municipalities don't have the financial resources. The region doesn't have the financial resources to be able to deal with something like this. Yet, what are we doing? Will we push back? Will we allow municipalities to be stepped over from the province? Because you may think, for example, that not taking a stand and the notwithstanding clause might be a benefit to you, but you lose the ability to govern in the future. You lose that ability. Once it's taken from you, it's not going to be coming back. The region needs to do an open letter to the government signifying that they will, in fact, protect its sovereignty and to ask for more funding. Don't be afraid to ask for more funding. Lead by example and lead for the municipalities of Ontario. That's what this region needs to do.
Thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you for an excellent presentation, and you seem to have hit all the right buttons in terms of where the responsibility truly lies. We have advocated to the provincial government, but for instance on OW, on many things about funding. My question to you is, will you advocate to the province and to the federal government? I think that we hear from the people, all local government does hear from the people on the street, people around us, but I'm not sure that the province and the federal government do.
The province and the federal government, quite frankly, don't give a crap about our people, but one of the things that I will continue to do as the roles that I am under is to continue to advocate. I am set to be addressing legislature in September, so it is something that we can discuss. But my continued advocacy has been raised on all levels, including the federal level as well, for housing concerns.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Tanner. Those are all the questions today. And again, thank you for coming in to delegate. Shannon Witten, and I believe this is a pre-recorded video, which we will now play. So watch your monitors.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to submit this recorded video as part of my ability to speak for this meeting. It's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday or sometime around then. I'm at work. So anyway, a little about me, the demographic that I'm coming from. My name is Shannon Witten, and I am a homeowner within the Kitchener Centre area. I'm very happy to be within that demographic. I bought with my partner, Evan, almost 2 years ago now. We are both working class, blue collar actually. I'm a Red Seal carpenter and he is on his way to becoming a Red Seal sheet metal worker. And I would love to say that we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and saved a bunch of money and just worked really hard, and that's why we were able to afford in Kitchener, and anybody should be able to do it. When in reality, I was raised by a single mother and my partner just doesn't have parents. He had an inheritance though, and that's what we were able to put down. And now my brother and my sister-in-law live with us to help make it affordable. So we are very aware that while we are extremely fortunate in the grand scheme of the world today, especially in Ontario, we are aware that we are much closer to being unhoused than being considered financially stable by, the standard 20 years ago. So keeping that in mind, with the residents at 100 Vic, we're about a 5-minute drive from them, and I've been following along with the work that's been put in and the dispute that's been going on. Nobody likes to see a housing encampment, but from where I'm coming from, and I feel confident speaking for the 4 adults in my household with this one, it's because we would like them to have housing. As far as my understanding is, this has already been put forward to the Ontario Superior Court twice, and clearing it's been considered illegal. I am in agreement with that. Judge Gibson has said that we need to put in a safe tenting bylaw to move them. I am in agreement with that. I believe my household is as well. We want to see these people with safe options. They are our neighbors. They are just down the road from us. Moving them will only hide the issue that is ever growing, not just in Kitchener, but across Ontario. I am deeply against the use of the notwithstanding clause. The interference of Doug Ford to try and vacate an area just for transit production, I mean, that's a whole other conversation if we want to talk a little bit about irony. But in general, I don't believe in notwithstanding clauses, especially in this case, though, to interfere with something that's already been handled by the court systems. And I personally would like to see more resources put in place, especially, it's never too soon to start. The winter is coming, and I believe Kitchener really dropped the ball this past winter when it came to providing warm alternatives for my neighbors. And it's not going to be getting any better. I'm a believer in a housing first solution. I think that we're a little bit a ways off from that, as unfortunate as it is. And that's again where having safe tenting bylaws could really benefit us in the meantime. But the first thing that we should be prioritizing is respecting the residents that are at the 100 Victoria encampment, reminding ourselves that these are very much like humans, that we are all so much closer to, for any reason, being in a situation where we've suddenly lost shelter, and they deserve empathy and respect and to be treated with dignity. I come from Hamilton. My partner is born and raised Kitchener, Waterloo, and I've seen how devastating clearing encampments can be. So I don't think moving them without a substantial solution is the way for us to move forward, and I hope that that can be taken into consideration with today's meeting. So 5 minutes isn't a lot of time, but that's okay because I'll ramble. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I hope everything goes smoothly. I'll be following along as much as I can from work today.
So colleagues, that was Shannon Witten. The next delegation is Kevin White from Kitchener. Kevin, I believe you're in the audience. You have the podium in 5 minutes.
Hello, Regional Council. I'm here to speak in favor of the region developing an emergency safe tenting bylaw before the June 22nd appeal deadline Following the April 23, 2025 decision to impose yet another bylaw that violated the charter rights of the homeless and proposed punishment for people providing aid on site at 100 Victoria, a meeting at which multiple delegates, including the lawyers who would go on to defeat your attempts to violate the constitutional rights of your constituents multiple times in court, warned you against implementing, I sent you a letter complaining of your lack of imagination and unity on council. I noted that for all that councillors have complained about an unresponsive, uncooperative, negligent, and hostile provincial government, each of you seem quite comfortable replicating similar behavior in your regional government roles. And this appears to be continuing while the region tries to pretend that its fewer than 500 shelter beds are providing adequate support for more than 2,300 homeless residents, a number which has continued to grow from 333 counted in 2018, and I note the significance of the change in provincial leadership in that year. However, the failure to address your own agreements, such as adopting the protocols outlined in the plan to end chronic homelessness, which were developed between regional staff, people with lived expertise, advocates, service providers, and others, has been an ongoing point of contention in our community, and regional council time and time again has not engaged in earnest dialogue as regional staff did during the development of the plan. I wish again to draw your attention to the region's stated mission, vision, and values. Our vision, what we aspire to, a compassionate community that cares for all people, stewards the land for future generations, and where everyone has the opportunity to live a good life. Our mission, what we do, providing essential services that support quality of life for each and every person in Waterloo region. Our core value, how we work, care for people and the land we share. To be clear, with regard to homelessness in Waterloo region and at 100 Victoria in particular, to say that you have utterly failed in your mission, vision, and values would be putting it very, very politely. Because beyond your attempts to repeatedly violate the charter rights of residents in the region, these actions blatantly oppose the stated mission, vision, and values of the region. It is an embarrassingly disrespectful misuse of taxpayer funds to wage an assault on the rights of those with the least in our community. It has been a refusal to consider options that would align with the mission, vision, and values, and a passive acceptance and reification of the province's hostility to the poor and homeless and those living with addictions. As Justice Gibson writes, the homeless are not other, they are us. You use taxpayer dollars, which we pay toward what we imagine to be the public good, to attempt to violate our charter rights. None of us are praising encampments as humanitarian or as adequate support for the social determinants of health or housing. It has been a frustrating process to have to argue for the support we want for homeless community members, that is, housing, safe, stable, and supportive housing. But instead, we are reduced to begging for mitigation and management, which the region twists into containment strategies further and further away from that goal, one which seems even further out of reach under the current moratorium. We have asked for progressive and inclusive zoning, funding for support workers, any defense at all for the valuable work provided at the now defunct safe consumption site, transitional housing, emergency shelters, warming and cooling centers, encampments, and now, as Justice Gibson points out in his ruling, a place where people who are homeless are allowed to legally exist at all. At previous council meetings, delegates have accused council of delaying meaningful responses with the intent of having the province use the notwithstanding clause to evict residents at 100 Victoria who will otherwise have nowhere else to go. Council adamantly denied this. Without action taken now, despite many warnings and opportunities for council to course correct well in advance, we are now at imminent risk of the delegates being proven correct. The region has been relying extensively on the volunteer work of individual community members above and beyond those working in roles for service providers for years to even have the inadequate support in place that we have. The least that could be provided is a location whereby consistent mutual aid from those volunteers and other service providers may be delivered and relationships may be fostered. One hopes that our taxes may instead support that rather than a tax on our charter rights and further criminalization of poverty and homelessness. Regional councillors have objected to delegates saying that they lack empathy. I would argue further that this regional council, as it relates to homelessness and the residents of 100 Victoria, struggles beyond this in that you have not been remotely trustworthy, which is something the federal housing advocate warned you against. As for integrity, you have none. Your words and actions
Kevin, I'm
are
gonna
opposed.
have to ask you, you're crossing a line here, so watch your words carefully, please.
Your words and actions are opposed. Implement a safe tenting bylaw, oppose the province's hostility toward democracy and the public good, and stand up for your community.
There are no questions. Thank you. Next delegation. And I'm going to remind the gallery again that if you want to show support, you can use jazz hands. We've done that in the past. There will be no clapping, cheering, or booing. Farah Jurdi, who I believe is virtual and from Waterloo. So Farah, welcome. You have the podium and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, Council. I'm here to talk to you today as a concerned resident of the Waterloo region about the 100 Vic encampment. I have the privilege of being able to delegate at the Council from the comfort of my home, where I'm allowed to be at the table discussing actual real-life consequences to our community members. Clearing out the 100 Victoria Street encampment in the name of regional development and building the transit hub without organizing adequate housing alternatives or a safe tenting bylaw is a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. What Doug Ford is threatening with the notwithstanding clause is a blatant disregard for human rights. And that matters, whether it's 1,000 people, 100 people, or 30 people. Because when we lose our ability to see one another as ourselves, we lose our direction, we lose our heart, and we lose what makes us conscious, empathetic people. So then systems get built that not only prioritize, but protect profit over people. And decisions such as Judge Gibson's that insist upon upholding human rights get scrutinized, they get challenged, and they're called ridiculous by fascists like Doug Ford. The people of this region have had enough. We refuse to bend to the demands of agencies like Metrolinx, who have absolutely no interest in the people of our communities. And we're forced to be here and essentially beg for you to see it our way, to plead that we can take a stand as a region that protects something as fundamental as Section 15 and 7 of the Charter. How humiliating. In your position, I wonder how comfortable you may be with prolonging this already years-long deliberation of whether or not unhoused people deserve to be protected by their cities and communities, or if they deserve to have access to social resources, affordable housing, access to a bathroom, or a proper meal. Who are we to decide who is deserving of basic humanity and how we get to protect that? What precedent does that set? Using the effort, the resources, as well as the time that it's already taken to deliberate whether these people deserve dignity and protection from further imposed precarious situations, maybe we would have had a stronger region for us all by now. When will the region stop talking about what to do about the people at the encampment in abstract and actually start taking action? Maybe the empty beds across the street would actually serve community members who need it. Maybe then we would begin to move toward a stable future. A future that does not rely on the dehumanization and the subjugation of real people, nor exacerbate harm to the residents of the encampment. Maybe we'll see a today that a regional council decision does not continue to lose public trust, and that the people sitting on the council actually care about something as fundamental as human rights. So your decision at the end of these delegations will be remembered by every resident at 100 Vic, every person who's one emergency away, one paycheck away from losing their housing, and everyone else in the region, and under the scrutiny of the entire province and country. So that's why I'm delegating for the very first time this morning, because it's always been the people that have each other's backs. So I'm asking, will you have the back of the encampment residents, and will you have ours in case we need it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Farah, I have no questions. The next delegation is Laura Mosher. Laura, I believe you're in person from Kitchener. You have 5 minutes and the podium is yours, and you may want to lower the podium.
Hello, Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My daughter has to be here with me because this council settled on a short notice change of plans, so I'll leave the expletives out today. But it's now clear to me that this council is not actually listening to delegates when we say anything you don't want to hear. So let me address this delegation to you, kiddo. This is how our community is run. We are told to take time out of our busy schedules if we want to be heard, only for people like us to get ignored. Crowds gather to beg this council to do the right thing, but their opinions are already bought and owed to more powerful people. Your grandma and uncle have been forced out of their apartment because of this council's slow motion towards doing anything about rent evictions. Your schizoaffective uncle is forced to sleep in a bed set up in a small living room because this council is so bad at their jobs that there is nowhere else for your uncle to spend the night. But if you can believe it, he's in a lucky situation. There are people stuck living outside They don't get a bed. If they try to sleep, they will be forced awake and forced to move. This council thinks that's acceptable. In fact, this council would prefer them to not even have the power to set up their own tent. They won't even look into safe tenting. So a group of people without shelter got together to protect each other from this council's drive to ruin their chances of sleeping in the same place every night. People just like them live, or people like them, yeah, just like them, live by the train station. You know them. You helped put cement on the walls of one of their shelters. This council wants to tear it all down. They are so determined, they took these poor people to court. The highest court in Ontario. And the judge told them, no, that violates human rights. Get them beds first. But this council's tricky. They found a loophole. They said, what if we just say it's for this piece of land? And they took these poor people back to court. The second judge told them, no, that violates human rights. Get them shelter or let them make their own. So now here we are. Why are we here? To again ask council to let these poor people make their own shelter. Do you think they will? Or do you think they'll try another trick? 2 judges and countless delegates have told this council how to stop violating humans and their rights. I'm only asking them to stop being servants of powerful fascists and let the most vulnerable in this region build the shelters this council is too incompetent to provide. Today, you'll hear what they decide.
Thank you, Laura. There are no questions. The next delegation is Kathy Eckert. Kathy, I believe you're here in person. The podium is yours, and you have 5 minutes.
Stand, please. Stand. Oh, my phone's acting up. Okay, we ready? Thank you again to the Region Council for allowing me to speak again. Just a few reality checks. I also ride the public transit in this community. My life has not been affected by not having a transit hub. There are 4 basic needs for a person to survive. That's shelter, clothes, food, and medicine. The region has not provided any of these things to the homeless, i.e. tents are donated to the homeless on the streets. The Soup Kitchen and St. Mary's Church and communities donate food and clothes to feed the homeless. And OHIP and Sangwon provide medicine. Get back here. The region wanted the responsibility to look after the homeless people, and so far it is the community looking after them, not the region, nor has the region provided any shelter for them, and have failed in honoring your contractual obligations. Maybe one day the community will vote in elected officials who don't cry and use the notwithstanding clause because they can't always have what they want. But you do have the 4 basic needs to survive. You have clothes, food, shelter, and medicine. Buddhist monks are also homeless voluntarily. Our homeless are not homeless voluntarily. So think mindfully about your decision for the homeless and what it means to the Buddhist community of Waterloo region, Ontario, and Canada, since Buddhist monks are also homeless. Respect is given to all people, as explained in Section 15 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, to promote diversity and living in peace and harmony in the community. Respect is not given on the basis of material wealth or gain. That is not charter grounds for a basis of human rights abuse. And trust must be earned. If you keep disobeying a court order, it is called contempt of court. That means His Majesty, the King's Court, detained you at their pleasure until you are called to apologize to His Majesty's court. In your rush to disrespect the homeless, you disrespect our king by using the notwithstanding clause, ignoring the truth and reconciliation, and every child matters. To quote Venerable Bhikkhu Banakara, try this when making your decisions. In the first second, choose loving kindness. It doesn't require power, money, or a title. It's simply a choice to stop hurting a person. In the second second, choose compassion. We don't know another's pain they carry, what loss they have faced, or how hard they are trying to survive. Compassion does not mean agreement. It means not adding more pain. A compassionate world doesn't abandon the weak and create more suffering. And the third second, choose love. Children grow up safe, elders live with dignity, and we don't turn away those in pain and suffering. The fourth second, choose harmony, to live in peace. In the fifth second, choose hope. Peace does not come from violence or hatred. It comes from living and caring for each other. And hope that progress is not built on human suffering. I am Canadian and a practitioner of Theravada Buddhism. I have not forgotten the unwholesome remarks this region of Waterloo members, shelter staff, and members of the community also said about me when I was homeless and formerly homeless. And the court apologized to me on your behalf when you showed me no compassion over the death of my late husband. Long live His Majesty, King Charles III. God bless our King. May you all be happy, peaceful, and well.
Kathy, thank you for delegating. I see no questions. The next delegate is virtual, Lily Fozard. Lily is from Waterloo. Lily, you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Lily Fozard. I am many things, but relevant to this speech are that I live in Waterloo region and that I am trans-feminine. I join you here from Toronto, outside of Women's College Hospital, due to the last-minute change in time and date. My thanks to the Council for showing such respect and care for our time. I address you, during Pride Month, about the notwithstanding clause. For those of you joining from Cambridge, Pride Month is a celebration of queers, a political protest against the cis-heteronormative regime and the mechanisms of state that are used to this day to oppress us, to murder us. One such mechanism is the notwithstanding clause, an ill-thought-out compromise designed to give provinces the ability to overrule the courts on matters of technical infringement on the Charter, supposedly to benefit the disenfranchised. What has it actually been used for? Human rights violation after human rights violation. According to the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, in recent years, the clause has been used to prevent education workers from striking, ban provincial government employees, daycare workers, and school staff from wearing religious symbols, ban prayers in public and at school, promote stimulus policies at the expense of interculturalism, limit third-party political spending ahead of elections, prohibit gender-affirming care for trans youth, ban transgender girls from participating in amateur female sports, and prevent trans youth from using their chosen names and pronouns in schools. I want to be clear here. The above uses have and will continue to cause death, especially of trans youth, a population who are disproportionately affected by homelessness. In short, the perfect mechanism to allow the government to brush all the undesirables in our society under a rug, to force those denied housing, denied the right to live to the margins, out of our cities. If not here, where? You have been told repeatedly by this community the options you have before you. You have been told repeatedly by the courts that your actions violate the Charter. Your options are simple: pass a safe tenting bylaw or delay long enough that Doug Ford violates human rights for you. It's interesting to see the rhetoric of drug use invoked over and over again, almost as a mantra justifying the over-policing and criminalization of those this government has failed. It reminds me of how we as trans women are called rapists and pedophiles, how hatred and rhetoric are used to justify our social and literal murders. Our humanity is stripped from us until we are caricatures, scarecrows at whose feet the sins of society can be laid, our lives and suffering, sacrifices you are willing to make. I struggle to see humanity in you. I struggle to see anything redeeming in you. And yet, our social framework, our Charter of Rights, demands that I do. That is the promise of such a document, flawed as it is, that even the worst among us are guaranteed protection. I will withstand you. I will withstand those like you. I have two asks of this institution. Firstly, pass a safe tenting bylaw. And second, when you eventually come for me, have the decency to murder me in cold blood. What a Pride Month. I intended to leave my delegation there, but as I was approaching Women's College Hospital, I ran into a crowd of community service workers striking for wages stolen under Bill 124. They have the bravery and the courage to resist Doug Ford. Do you?
Thank you, Lily. I have no questions. Thank you for delegating. And the next delegate, I believe, is in person. It's Megan Snyder. And Megan is from Kitchener. So Megan, when you get to the podium, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Megan, and I am a homeowner in Kitchener. I find it very telling that today you have almost 30 delegates, a number of written submissions, an email sent by many folks to all of you, this many people here in chambers on a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and this is all without any actual evidence yet that you are appealing or otherwise resisting Justice Gibson's decision. We don't actually know if you've worked something out with your friend from the province or if you're going to continue going after 100 Vic. I mean, we know because we've all hung around this place enough, but we don't actually know. We just know that we really sadly can't trust you to do the humane thing. We know that 2 Ontario Superior Court justices told you that evicting 100 Vic would be unconstitutional and a violation of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, depriving your constituents of their rights to life, liberty, and security of the person. We know that isn't enough for you to stop trying to make it happen. I would like to quote Justice Gibson, reading from pages 5 to 6 of his 88-page decision. Homelessness is a public policy issue that engages practical, moral, and legal dimensions. The prevalence of encampments reflects Canada's challenges in meeting its human rights obligation to ensure that all individuals have access to adequate housing that is secure, affordable, habitable, accessible, culturally appropriate, and in a suitable location with access to services, while faced with the practical constraints of available resources and the challenges in resource allocation, as well as planning for projects that aim to advance the public good. Assessing the issue of homeless encampments from a charter perspective requires consideration of contending factors that often seem to pull in different directions. It is a complex and contentious task, often fraught with emotion, with no simple solution. But it ultimately needs to be informed by one primary thought. The homeless are not other, they are us. They are rights bearers no less entitled than any other Canadian citizens to the full benefit and protection of the Charter. I'll read that last part again. They are rights bearers no less entitled than any other Canadian citizens to the full benefit and protection of the Charter. Human rights, this is me speaking now, human rights are an obligation, not an option. You, right now, behind closed doors, are presumably trying to find your way out of a human rights obligation. You are trying to make it okay and justifiable to violate your constituents' rights to life. There is no justification when it comes to our human rights. The homeless are not other. They are us. They are you. We are bound to each other in upholding our human rights. And if that is something that you are not willing to take up as a regional councillor, I would really urge you to reconsider whether you belong in this role and whether you should remain sitting around this horseshoe. Thank you.
Okay, again, jazz hands work, clapping doesn't. Megan, there is a question. Councillor Rodriguez.
Thanks for coming in, Megan. I think you were here in January when Council tried to take a step towards understanding more about a safe tenting protocol, and I think there was an understanding of where the support was and where there might be impediments to implementing a safe protocol in Waterloo region. And when we talk about Thunder Bay or London, those are single-tier municipalities that have sort of final say in their communities. And so we're in this unique position where any land that we have as a government is in an area municipality or is a provincial land or conservation authority or someone else's thing. Have you had a chance in that time since January to have any conversations with some of those partners, or have you thought about, like, this is something that we're trying to figure out, how do we, council brought forward the managed encampment on Urbs Road, and that's as far as that got. And so just curious if you had any conversations in that regard, about, in terms of that jurisdictional issue that I think some of us are facing in wanting to learn more about safe tenting.
Right. Sorry, just to clarify, when you say conversations with partners, sorry, which partners are you referring to?
Yes, very great question. Like cities, townships, members of provincial parliament. I'm just curious if you've had any conversations with any of those folks. 'Cause we need that, like that partnership, like we need that okay or their land for this to work. And we've seen examples where municipalities put in safe tenting and it basically doesn't work because there's no, like, the policy is great, but it's kind of DOA. It just sort of sits there. So I'm just curious.
Sure, yeah, I would say that I've had conversations on an advocacy level with other folks from other municipalities around the issue, but this is not my day job, so I have not had any sort of policy level discussions, but I certainly know
from an advocacy perspective,
yeah, from an advocacy perspective, yes. I certainly know that there are, of course, as Joanna Mullins said, the co-creators table, I am sure there are, well, I know for a fact there are many people there who would be able to speak to their discussions at a policy level.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Megan. That was the only question. Next is Laura Pinn. Laura is joining us virtually, and it's from Hamilton. Laura, you have 5 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Member Council. I'm sorry I can't be here in person today with the changed date and time. I wasn't able to be here. In light of the recent Ontario Superior Court ruling concerning the encampment at 100 Victoria Street North, I'm delegating as the lead researcher on a project Realizing the Right Municipal Policy Responses to Encampments. This is a federally funded academic research project, and I'm delegating to share some findings from our work and urge the region to adopt a safe tenting protocol grounded in human rights principles. This also is a follow-up to a letter sent to Community Council on June 2nd by myself, Dr. Erin Day, and Reagan Bruce. That includes links to the full report and executive summary. The project's really focused on taking high-level human rights principles and translating them into strategies for action to respond to encampments. It includes a policy scan of 38 municipalities in Ontario, as well as a survey of 105 people who have stayed in an encampment in the past 12 months, including 65 people who have stayed in an encampment in Waterloo region 12 months. Municipal responses to encampments identifies 5 core pillars of the human rights response.
Laura,
Decentering policing.
Laura, you're breaking up. Maybe, do you want to turn your camera off and just see if it makes the audio less stilted?
If you will just give me a second, I will do that. And I think I might be able to my connection.
All right.
Is this better?
It is.
So as I was saying, the report identified 5 core pillars of a human rights response based in the literature: decentering policing and enforcement, addressing basic needs and conditions in encampments, ensuring equitable and accessible services, supporting meaningful participation of encampment residents in decision-making, and recognizing Indigenous rights. At the same time in the report, we identify several promising practices from municipalities across Ontario. For example, the City of London's service depot model provides one example of a more rights-aligned approach. Through mobile service delivery located directly near encampments, London's improved access to water, food, hygiene supplies, harm reduction support, washroom outreach services, and fire safety resources. This model is effective because it reduces transportation barriers and allows people to access supports without risking the loss or destruction of belongings. Similarly, municipalities including London, Thunder Bay, and Toronto have adopted policy language that explicitly recognizes that homelessness is not illegal, services must remain voluntary and grounded in self-determination. These approaches acknowledge that people cannot be forced into services or shelter arrangements that are unsafe, inaccessible, or inappropriate for them, aligned with some of the findings of Justice Gibson in the court case. A second component of this project, which is not yet published, is a survey of 105 people, as I mentioned, who have stayed in an encampment in the past year. There are many findings, but one that speaks particularly to the necessity of safe tenting is how harmful forced removal and displacement is. Most of the people we surveyed had experienced forced displacement. Some of the harms they experienced as a result, 75% experienced the loss or destruction of personal property, half lost connection to family or friends, just under half lost connection to health services and social services. Other people spoke about losing access to health cards, birth certificates, valuable items. Here are some specific comments that people left. Quote, "They destroyed everything. Anything left behind was put in dump trucks. My belongings were bulldozed. I had no other place to go, left high and dry. I lost my phone, which meant connection to services and friends. My wife couldn't call me, which is very important. Outreach workers I had been talking to no longer knew where to find me. It was very disorienting and chaotic to handle the situation in the moment. I lost sleep, which led me to lose access to daytime social and health services. Personal items that were irreplaceable were destroyed, like family photos. We weren't allowed to go into our tents to recover items. It's important to note that when people are being displaced, they are not being displaced into housing or even emergency shelter. People are being displaced into further homelessness and vulnerability. In light of both the evolving legal landscape and the findings of this research, we urge the region of Waterloo to take advantage of the excellent staff support that exists locally within housing services. Task that staff with developing and researching a safe tenting protocol in conjunction with the co-creators table, a course of action that's already been supported by 1,800 community members through the petition. Those are all my comments.
Thank you, Laura. We do have a question. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Laura, for coming today. Laura, I believe that housing is a human right, but I don't believe that a parking lot should serve as a house. And so it surprises me that the court believes that safe tenting is good enough. Can you speak to how the safety of tenting seems like an irony to me? Can you speak to why tenting is safe enough in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. And safe tenting does not meet the standard for adequate housing, which is how housing as a human right is typically considered. The issue is that there is no housing for the number of people currently experiencing homelessness, and there are not enough emergency shelter spaces. And there are hundreds of people on the prioritization list for housing right now. A lot of the people we talk to who are staying in an encampment, many of them are not on the housing list, but a lot of them are. And they say, well, I was prioritized a few years ago. I don't know what's going on. And so in the context of a lot of bad choices, safe tenting is the least harmful for people. It enables people to survive. It enables people to connect with service providers, and it can serve as a connection to an exit from homelessness. But the fact is that in the immediate or even medium term, we do not have emergency shelter and housing options for the people experiencing homelessness in the region, and they are going to have to exist in public spaces. And when they are experiencing criminalization and forced removal, it really leads to a lot of harm for them, as was outlined in the court case, and I think is supported by our research.
Just to follow up, Chair Redmond, if I may. Laura, thank you for your perspective here. And to all of the advocates here, I just want to encourage you that we want to have as much supportive housing and shelters as we need. And so if you could join the region of Waterloo in advocating to the province for that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks. Laura, those are all the questions we have. So thank you for delegating today. Laura? We may have lost Laura.
Oh,
Laura, are you still there? Okay.
You're very welcome. I thought that was all the questions, so I was
No,
going to
I
turn
thought
off
so
my
too,
camera.
but Councillor Wolf, I guess, just didn't get in the queue quick enough. So go ahead, Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the report, Laura. I wonder if you could share it with council, your research. Could you send us what you just said?
Yeah, absolutely. So that there are, it is in the submission to Community Council from June 2nd, but I'd be happy to send it directly to council. I will do so after this meeting.
Thank you.
Laura, now I think it's safe to go. Thank you very much for delegating. That is all the questions. The next delegation is joining us with a pre-recorded video, and it's Craig Sloss from Waterloo. So please look at the monitor. We're experiencing some tech issues, so I think we will come back to Craig in the next, oh, never mind, we're there. Okay, we're going to go to the next delegation and come back to Craig when we've resolved our tech issues. John Bannister, I believe you're here in person. Welcome to the podium, and you have 5 minutes.
Chair Redmond, just a quick point of order. Do we have quorum?
We do. We have several members online.
Good morning, Council. I'm John Bannister. Other people know me as Chairman John, but I think today I'm the Vice President of the Southwest ONDP, for whatever that's worth. And I represent about 15,000 members in all of the Southwest. I think it's fair to say that this didn't go how you wanted it to go. Let's rewind. From my perspective, of course, I'm a constituent. The region is tirelessly at work to find a humane solution to homelessness in our region, constantly looking at that compassionate solution. But you've sued the encampment. Cambridge has actually already cleared encampments. Actually, and just a note too, I find calls to join advocacy together really silly because you actually sit with mayors of the municipality. You actually work in the same space. So I just find that a little absurd. So, I mean, what's the priority? It's not humane. Otherwise, you would have done more. So it seems like the priority is a train stop or appeasing the province, maybe, or sitting on the police board at the same time as being a councillor. So how can it be humane? People already know they're getting screwed, that police are there to protect private property, not the public. And actually, every bit of change has come from the public fighting back against your position, which holds up the idea that exploitation should be first and profit second. We already know our government is helping Israel. We already know our government is helping ICE at the provincial level. And our region actually hosts weapons manufacturers. So coming to you as your constituent, I think people are a little done. So Ford abandoned you, right? You can't use the notwithstanding clause unless there's parliament in session and the legislative assembly is raised. So now you're just on your own with the knowledge that everyone knows you'd sell all of us out for money or power. And this isn't a democratic process either. If it was democratic, then we would all choose, all of us, we'd all get a say. Not just me talking at you, we would actually be able to participate in change. And I mean, like, I get it. It's an easy change. You know, you sit on the board and you pass the police budget and you get an extra $12K. It's easy, I get it. But I grew up here, and I know you have a lot of these people fooled. This is not a place of democracy at all. This is a place of brutish power, and a really ugly place at that. So I refuse this electoral process that systemically allows you guys to make choices over us. I cannot be a part of that in any way, shape, or form. And the region is dictated by this council when everyone knows you're just like us. And we already know you don't care. The system actually totally prevents you from caring. And you all won popularity contests, which gives you the power over life for others. And I'm meant to trust you, believe in you, over my neighbor, my school teachers. I should trust your police on my streets. When we can't afford to live, to eat, to shelter ourselves, I should depend on you. The government who polices, demonizes, and demeans the homeless, and that's not saying much when every ordinary person is already struggling. Units sitting empty because, again, the order is exploitation and then profit. But this is real life for us, you know, like, this is not a spin. I wish I was coming to you with some big narrative. It's not. And we're supposed to humanize you? If this was 300 years ago, we'd have pitchforks and torches, and I know you know that. What you've done, consider your legacies cooked. It's done. It's over. You could have helped the people at the encampment, you didn't. You could have housed them, you didn't. You could have told the police to be more charitable, you didn't. You could have told the Barbara Collins Security Police Patrol to not be there 24/7, you didn't. And I know I'm paying for that. That's my tax dollars at work, really. Because that's what I know this system is, but we all need to realize what this system is, and that coming here to tell these people what we think is not just a waste of time when the province has its thumb on the scale. We all need to get a little bit smarter about what we're doing here. Thank you. And I refuse your questions.
Again, I'm going to caution no applauds. And the next, do we have Craig Sloss up? So we will go back to the video that was provided.
At Central Station. The trip involves a lengthy walk from Central Station to the Intercity Rail Station, along a sidewalk that, at points, is unsafe and inaccessible, especially in winter or when carrying luggage for the trip. I, and many others, would benefit greatly from having a central transit hub that is near the Ihunt station. The region's transit plans have frequently been cited as justification for the attempts to forcibly remove the residents at the Victoria Street encampment. The region's current approach has twice been determined by courts to be unconstitutional. Establishing a safe tenting protocol is the only practical approach for allowing the transit hub project to proceed. This is not a situation in which we have to make a choice between supporting transit and supporting our constitutional rights. That is a false choice. On the contrary, this is a situation in which two problems have a common solution, and that solution is a safe tenting protocol. A safe tenting protocol is necessary for the obvious reason that people won't be able to leave the encampment unless they have another place to go. The ideal solution would be to ensure that there is long-term, stable housing for everyone in our community. Unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. It takes time to build new housing. A safe tenting protocol provides a short-term solution until housing becomes available. Framing the issue as a choice between a safe tenting protocol and permanent housing would be another false choice. We need the short-term solution to address the immediate problem while we wait for the long-term solution to be in place. We need both a safe tenting protocol and long-term stable housing. I am disappointed that 6 months ago, this council rejected a proposal from Councillor Wolf to direct staff to report on a safe tenting protocol. This motion failed on an 8-8 tie vote. A single vote could have changed the result. Every councillor who voted against the motion is responsible for its defeat. What bothers me most is that this wasn't yet a motion to adopt the bylaw. It was just a motion asking staff to look into it. It bothers me that you didn't even want to hear what the options were. Other cities, like Thunder Bay, London, and Guelph, have adopted various approaches to safe tenting. Why are we not looking at what other cities are doing successfully, evaluating their approaches, and adapting them to our needs? The region has twice been told by courts that its current approach is unconstitutional. Council has twice passed unconstitutional bylaws that have done nothing but waste time and money as you attempt and fail to defend these approaches in court. You now have a direct instruction from a judge to implement a safe tenting protocol or provide an alternative encampment site. In the 6 months since Council rejected the safe tenting motion, the situation has worsened to the point that we are now hearing extreme proposals like suspending constitutional rights. Adopting a safe tenting protocol would show respect for the law, preserve our fundamental rights, show compassion for unhoused members of our community, and allow our transit plans to proceed. I urge Council to reconsider its earlier decision and to adopt a safe tenting protocol as soon as possible. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my feedback today.
So colleagues, the next delegation is Lorraine Grenier from Kitchener. Lorraine, welcome to the podium, and you have 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman Redmond. Good morning, Chairman Redmond and Council. I just want to clarify, I'm directing my deputation with regard to Victoria Street encampment. Radical social justice outbursts on social media attempting to discredit, humiliate, and shame Premier Ford and Regional Council is non-productive. The negative outcome of such behavior is loss of credibility. The Premier and Regional Council do not hate homeless, disabled, and people with addiction. Moving forward, I'm speaking out loud what people in this community whisper. I'm lifting the veil on quiet frustrations to make sure the unheard voices, everyday struggles, and valid criticisms are heard and not ignored by the people who make the decisions. To my knowledge, the region has successfully housed the original residents who first moved into the encampment. Ongoing outreach has resulted in a revolving door of newcomers, meaning none of the current residents are from the original group. The current situation is not an affordable housing crisis at the encampment. No one missed a rent payment and no one's going to buy a house. In my eyes, the situation is unfortunately driven by mental illness and addiction. Giving people apartments with no inside support system is reckless and dangerous. The results are always the same: crime, violence, and tragedy. The answer is not a sanctioned encampment. Accountability creates agency, and impunity destroys agency. Supportive housing is a crisis and must be addressed and resolved. Valued time is wasted on egos and creates political exhaustion. Approximately $2 million spent on the encampment, and there is no supportive housing, and 4 years have passed by. Our people with mental illness and addiction are rotting outside on the sidewalk, holding tight a lighter and a government taxpayer-funded pipe and tinfoil. Critical thinking lost to addiction. I witness daily people wandering into traffic, yelling into the air, shirtless, shoeless, a danger to themselves and to the public. We have a shared moral responsibility to keep our community safe and healthy. We must all try harder and we must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. I see no questions, but thank you for delegating. The next delegation is Ryan Murdoch from Kitchener.
So I guess we have like more police here now, eh?
Ryan, you have 5 minutes.
One thing I've learned, there's always money in the police budget, right? Always and forever. Oh yeah, sorry. Gonna get well, I say important stuff, but we all know if you were listening, like, you would have already done something. Even the questions, like, I appreciate you're trying to, but like, you would have already asked those questions. You would have had staff look into this. So this all seems very disingenuous, very performative, but let me perform for you. So we are here asking for a camping bylaw, right? A safe tent bylaw, whatever you want to call it. But you've already asked some questions. What could it look like? I suggest you get the internet. You could figure this out. So from an Instagram post from Fight Back, what it could look like: designated public sites for camping to balance shared uses of public space. It would be near transit and resources, have basic sanitation such as porta potties, hand washing, dumpsters, and showers, and it would include multiple locations for safety, choice, and dignity. A judge already told you this, a very woke, blue-haired military judge, right? And you guys you are so desperate to violate people's constitutional rights. Like, what faith do any of us have anymore that you would do anything to stop fascism? You would just vote it in very politely, being like, I think we're a great community to live. Yeah, but you just really want to bulldoze tents. Like, so I hope when this happens that you all have like the balls to show up and watch people lose the last safe spot they had. And no one thinks tents are the best, right? No one thinks that's a great location in a parking lot. We're not like, let's get everybody living in a tent in a parking lot. That's garbage, and you guys know that, right? It's just like asking us to talk to other levels of government. That's your job. Why are you telling us to do your job, right? Right? That's like my boss coming in and me being like, nah, man, I don't want to poach eggs today. Can you do it? I haven't really looked it up. I had a month of training, but I didn't figure it out. Like, it's infuriating. And then you want to talk about like decorum and respect when that's really just a way for you guys to avoid people being able to voice their real frustrations with you. You want to hide behind a whole bunch of lingo, right? But you deserve to feel how angry people are. And to be honest, right? Both sides right now think you're doing a terrible job, right? No one thinks you've done a good job because you don't do anything. You just sit there and waste our money. You give it to security companies, you give it to that trailer company, but you don't do anything, right? You don't actually do anything. Because if you did, we'd all not be here today. You guys wouldn't even be here today, right? Because you've already been told multiple times by many people, again, including a judge, twice, different judges, what you have to do. And you just refuse. I don't know why. Like, anybody who follows this at all just thinks you're just wasting time and money because you won't actually do either or. Like, at this point, it really just seems like you're waiting for Doug Ford to do your dirty work so that you can all pretend that you tried. But I don't think you tried. Like, I'm so disappointed in my interactions with local government. It's just been just disappointment after disappointment, and I really wonder what the point is anymore. Because, yeah, you're not interested in finding solutions, it seems, because, again, it's right there. So prove me wrong, please. Prove me wrong. Vote to actually do something today. Don't put it off. Don't wait. Pass something that says you're going to get staff to seriously look at this and pass it. I mean, it's a shame that today couldn't be staff coming forward, having reached out to London, other municipalities, because that wouldn't have been hard. You could have done that. There was a vote on it, and Couldn't even make that happen. Couldn't even look at the solution. And then you're like, guys, what's the solution? Madness. Madness. And also like this two-tier stuff, I'm so tired of it because I hear that when I go to the Waterloo Council, I hear it when I go to the Kitchener Council, and I hear it when I go here. So you know what? If you don't do this today, if you don't actually do something, vote to dissolve yourselves and just have Doug Ford appoint someone because it's the same result. And we would save a lot of money. We should probably dissolve you and just merge everything together because this two-tier stuff just allows a bunch of hiding behind, whoa, whose job was that? Well, again, it kind of seems like something you guys could figure out as part of, your responsibilities as the elected officials. So yeah, like, you guys, like he said, cooked, you guys are burnt, right? Like, this is crazy. This is like, yeah, you're all looking at me. Thanks.
So Ryan, you are out of time, but we do have a question. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Ryan, are you aware how many people we've housed?
Not enough.
Are you aware that when we first got orders from the court that we almost housed all of them at Vic, and then a whole bunch of new ones came?
Yeah,
and
it's almost
again,
like...
And again, we housed them. Were you aware we housed them? And again, more came. So
it's almost like there's more homeless in your community.
We are doing our job as best as we can in the right situation. For you to attack us this way and not realize
What do
how
you mean
many people
attack?
get
It's a job performance
Okay,
review.
do you know what? I'm going to intervene here,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Fox, and I
Thank you.
appreciate
I
your
just asked
asking if these statistics, if Ryan is aware of them. So Ryan, if you want to respond, are you aware of the amount of money that has been invested in the actions that have been taken?
Yeah, I think I heard 2 million. It's probably more.
Okay.
And what do we have to show for it? Did you... Like, yeah, you house some people. Okay. Like, if I show up with every poached egg being hard, when they're not like, okay. So you did a mediocre job and you got some people housed. Like, that's cool, but like, it's still full of people who don't have homes, right? So like, I don't know where the success story is, to be honest. And yeah, it sucks. You guys have a hard job, but like, you also haven't done a good job at it. So it's not an attack. Like, you guys take everything personal when it's actually just job performance reviews that you guys can't handle. And considering the age group of the council, it's bizarre that you all want participation ribbons. So, because I don't do that.
So Ryan, thank you very much. That was the only question we had. The next delegation is... So again, I'm going to caution that the applause stops or we'll ask you to leave the chamber. The next delegation is Simon Guthrie from Kitchener. Simon, welcome to the podium, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair and members of council, my name is Simon Guthrie, and I'm here today to speak about Justice Gibson's ruling on the 100 Victoria encampment. I'm asking Regional Council to make 4 commitments. First, do not appeal this ruling. Second, do not request, endorse, welcome, rely on, or participate in any provincial attempt to override the ruling through the notwithstanding clause. Third, begin immediate work with all municipalities on a safe, lawful tenting protocol. It's a necessary part of our collective response to homelessness. And fourth, move forward on the Kitchener Central Transit Hub in a way that respects the rights and dignity of the people living nearby. Justice Gibson's ruling is not the end of the story because it can't be. Courts cannot solve homelessness, but they can remind governments that people have rights, and that's what this ruling does. Justice Gibson wrote, "The homeless are not other, they are us." That sentence should stay with every leader in Waterloo Region. People living without shelter are not a planning inconvenience. They're not a public relations problem. They are not obstacles to be moved out of sight when their presence becomes uncomfortable. They are people. They are neighbors. They are rights bearers. At the same time, I want to be clear. I support the Kitchener Central Transit Hub. Good transit matters. Climate-responsible infrastructure matters. Connected, equitable, lower-carbon communities matter. We need public infrastructure that helps people move through this region with dignity, efficiency, and fairness. But public infrastructure cannot be built by treating unhoused people as disposable. The Gibson ruling does not stop the hub. It tells Waterloo Region how to proceed. It tells us that we cannot use enforcement as a substitute for housing policy. It tells us that if government wants to restrict where people shelter, government must provide a lawful alternative. That means a safe tenting protocol. It means a lawful alternative site. It means meaningful implementation of the plan to end chronic homelessness, and it means ending the fiction that displacement is the same thing as a solution. An appeal would not house anyone. It would not make the transit hub more just. It would not make our community safer. It would spend more public money trying to litigate our way out of a crisis that requires practical, rights-respecting leadership. Council should also be clear about the notwithstanding clause. I know that Regional Council cannot invoke Section 33 of the Charter, but the province can, and the Premier's first response to this ruling gave many people reason to worry that Queen's Park may be prepared to override rights rather than require governments to do the difficult work of creating lawful alternatives. Using the notwithstanding clause here would not solve homelessness. It would simply suspend the rights of people who are already among the least protected in our community. It would say that the life, security, and equality rights of unhoused people can be set aside when they become inconvenient. Regional Council should reject that path clearly and immediately. Council should say that Waterloo Region will not ask for such an override, will not endorse it, will not welcome it, and will not rely on it. This commitment applies not only to the Regional Council, but to the region as a whole, including every regional agency, board, service, and affiliated body, such as the Waterloo Regional Police Service. There is also a local governance problem that this ruling has brought into sharper focus. The region is responsible for homelessness services, but the cities and townships control much of the land and public space where any real response would have to happen. The mayors of those municipalities also sit at this table. That means no one can solve this alone, but it also means no one should be allowed to point to another level of local government as an excuse for inaction. A safe tenting framework will only work if the region, 3 cities, and 4 townships work together. The mayors should bring their councils together around a region-wide protocol rather than allowing responsibility to be passed back and forth while the crisis deepens. Other municipalities have begun this work. London has taken steps, Thunder Bay has taken steps, Chatham-Kent has taken steps. These are all single-tier municipalities, and Waterloo Region's structure is different. But difference is not an excuse for analysis or for paralysis. In the worst framing, our 2-tier structure has become an obstacle to both addressing homelessness and building the transit hub. In a more generous framing, it allows good people in different offices to wait for someone else to move first. Either way, the outcome is failure. I recently visited the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg. It's a powerful place to reflect on the gap between the rights we proclaim and the rights we are actually willing to honor. That's the test before Waterloo Region now. The question is not whether we uphold rights when it is easy. The question is how we uphold rights when doing so is difficult, inconvenient, and politically uncomfortable. Council has choices. You could appeal, you could delay, you could wait for Queen's Park to override rights. You could continue pretending that enforcement is a housing strategy. You could allow our municipal structure to be an excuse for inaction. Or you can do better. Accept the ruling, reject the notwithstanding clause, work together on a safe and lawful tenting protocol, implement the plan to end chronic homelessness, build the Kitchener Central Transit Hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I see no further questions. Just for the audience is aware, I had to step into the chair as Chair Redmond had to step away for a moment. Next, we will have Daisy Sky. Kitchener, you are virtual. Oh, it says you're virtual. You're in person? Okay. Thank you for coming in, Daisy. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you for taking your position in the chair on this, and thank you to the councillors for having me here today. My name is Sky Dacey. I want to start by saying I grew up in a community where we had 30 years of legal challenge to our right to exist within our homes due to challenges around the ownership of the land. And so I am very familiar with the tensions that a community tolerates and the stresses that that can create for members. Having grown up in that community, I am also aware of the intense relationships that can develop in those communities and the importance of those for sustaining individuals who are struggling, as I was the child of a mother who struggled quite deeply and would never have survived without that support. I grew up and became a registered midwife, and I served in this community for 20 years, delivering many of the babies around this community, and even serving as the head midwife at Grand River Hospital, which at that time, for 4 years. I feel like I have contributed deeply to this community and grown to care an enormous amount for it. This battle is personal to me. I live in the downtown area. I grew up in the downtown of Toronto, but I live in the downtown of Kitchener. I'm old, so I've seen a lot of things come and go. Some of you might be old enough to have done that too. And as I retired from midwifery, I felt compelled enough around social justice issues to return to school and get my master's of social work. In that capacity, I became closely linked to individuals who were doing work at the encampment and became quite committed to both the individuals there and the work that the community was doing to support those individuals. I became aware of the role that policing, over-scrutinizing by security, these were being used to seemingly be punitive in many ways for the residents. I'm well aware of the housing that was provided to many residents because many of those residents would return and tell us about the inadequacy of the services that they were provided with. That led me to understand the degree to which those services were, and I'm going to use the word that's been said here a few times, performative. People were being offered housing that didn't meet their needs, and then they were returning to the encampment because they continued to need the social supports, they continued to need the community, and they continued to need a sense of belonging that they lost when they were fragmented into the larger community. I am aware that we are all sitting in a region that is located within a province, and that this province is looking at more jail beds, putting 3 to a room, looking at reducing the options of bail, having more punitive sentences, and that we're all participating in this particular time at an increased criminalization of poverty. I think we're aware that that targets people who are already vulnerable in ways that it may not touch our personal doorsteps, but it will touch many of those that we know, many of those that we care about, and it definitely touches this community. I am very concerned that this is not actively being acknowledged as a part of the context for this discussion. I live close enough to the downtown core that my routes of transit are regularly affected by building. I am well aware of the implications of shutting down Francis Street for the build at Francis and King, and that block has been there for months and months, possibly a year. You cannot tell me that there are not places where you could shut down a block of traffic and park a vehicle, materials, or other things of concern, because it's already done. It's done for corporate interests, it's done for expansion. This is a target, and the refusal to answer the call from the Ontario Supreme Courts, the refusal to be accountable to your jobs and to rise to the occasion and creatively think of solutions that will honor the dignity, the humanity, and the very most basic human needs of our community is actually an embarrassment. All I can say to you folks, and I see every single one of you here wanting to be seen for your own humanity in these seats, is that if you are not actually feeling that there are options, then you aren't actually looking at it closely enough. And if it has to be the province, let it be the province. But I'm going to tell you, all of this looks bad on you, because it does, right? It's just that simple. Pushing people out of their homes and saying you have no solutions, saying you have no options is not adequate.
Thank you, Daisy. We have no questions. The next delegation is Angela White, Kitchener. And again, I think we have a pre-recorded video, so please watch the monitors.
Hello, my name is Angela White. I would like to extend my thanks to Council for allowing delegation today in this format. I have a number of health-related appointments that I was not able to reschedule on short notice, otherwise I would be there in person. I am a person who has lived in precarious housing for a number of years now due to being disabled. I worked and shared community in the region of Waterloo starting in 2007, including former employment at Blackberry, and I have now lived here for 2 years. I am telling you this so that you have an understanding of the depth of change I am talking to you about today. The fear I have that when I run out of even the precarious options I have been able to access, I could be arrested, fined, or incarcerated has only been slightly allayed because of my knowledge of the encampment at 100 Vic. Justice Gibson described it as a miserable and desperate place, the only remaining safety valve for the region's homeless as a refuge of last resort. And knowledge that it exists has given me comfort. Please, really take that in. You have been given an opportunity to do better for the people who, for whatever reason, are not currently able to live in the comfort and safety that you experience, that I used to experience before I became disabled in a way that doesn't allow me to live a conventional life when I did not understand that most of us are only a handful of bad experiences away from losing that comfort and safety. Today, I am asking you to do what Justice Gibson is proposing. Allow safe tenting and decriminalized camping. Please honor the plan to end chronic homelessness. This is not only about currently unhoused people. This is also about the people who will become unhoused in the near future and who carry the same fears I do. Please take Justin Gibson's words to heart, that the homeless are not other. They are us. They are rights bearers of no less entitled than any other Canadian citizens to the full benefit and protection of the Charter. They are me. They are us. They are you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next delegation is Jason Fitzgerald. Jason, I believe you're here in person. Jason is from Kitchener. We'll move on and maybe Jason will join us later. Suhanya Keithaswaran from Cambridge. And I believe, Suhanya, you're joining us virtually. You have 5 minutes.
Chair Redmond, I was wondering if I could actually ask an administrative question before I begin. Thank you. I was working towards preparing a slide deck in time for 7 p.m. today because the meeting was originally scheduled for 7 p.m. tomorrow. And when I received a confirmation that I could delegate this morning, I worked through the night to prepare my slide deck in time for this meeting. Now, I understand that the clerk needs to abide by the rules that the slide deck needs to be shared 24 hours in advance. The only reason you didn't have it 24 hours in advance is because the meeting was changed. And given the time and the effort that I made to not only be at the meeting today, but also to have a slide deck prepared, I would like to ask if I could share my screen, or if you can bump me further in the agenda. I am happy to stay on longer, but I would like to be able to use the presentation that I worked on.
So I was aware of this issue, and I will ask for unanimous consent from my colleagues that the slide deck be shared. Okay, I see no dissenting votes, so you may go ahead and your slide deck will be put up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so I believe my time will start now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I am speaking to you today from Cambridge, Ontario, and want to thank you for the opportunity to delegate. I'm here to share some local perspectives on homeless encampments from the people that I love in my life. And this is ultimately a story about people coming together over shared values and long-standing bonds. So earlier this year, my family and I opened our home to our friends and family every Friday night in both January and February for soup and games. All we asked in return is that they bring a donation for the people sleeping outside in the bitter cold, under bridges, in parks, beside railway tracks, and in encampments. At the time, mayors across Ontario were asking the province to declare a state of emergency. The homeless population had increased 50% in 3 years to 85,000 people, of which 20,000 were children and youth. The same story was playing out at the local level in every community in Ontario. Here in Waterloo Region, the homeless population had actually more than doubled from 1,121 to over 2,300 by 2024. To be completely honest, I wasn't sure what to expect when we sent our invite. Oh, I'm so sorry. I realize that I'm supposed to be saying next slide. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is a slide that shows the invite that went out to our friends about the tradition that we had started. And as I said, we invited them over for soup and games and asked that in return they bring a donation of winter supplies for those who were sleeping in the bitter cold. Next slide, please. At the time, mayors were asking the province to declare a state of emergency. This was based on the fact that homelessness had increased in Ontario by more than 50% in 3 years. 85,000 people were homeless as of the end of 2024. 20,000 of them were children and youth. And here in Waterloo Region, the number had actually more than doubled from 1,100 in 2021 to 2,300 people or more in 2024. Next slide, please. To be completely honest, I wasn't sure what to expect when we sent our invite. Homelessness, encampments, and the idea of public camping had become polarizing topics. But our friends met the moment with overwhelming generosity. Week after week, they arrived with donations by the bagful. Next slide, please. In many societies, we reward this kind of generosity with praise, recognition, awards. But it's worth asking the question, when everyday folks are gathering survival supplies so that the people outside don't freeze to death, is that an example of Waterloo Region's barn raiser spirit? Or are we forcing people with a strong moral compass to fill the gaps that are being left by our governments? Next slide, please. Seen here are VPs and retirees, business owners and public sector employees, landlords and tenants, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, cousins, each with their own politics, each with their own viewpoints. And while our friends who showed up to the soup nights are thoughtful, caring, and compassionate, they don't all share the same perspective on encampments. And yet, they all seem to agree on one thing. Something needs to be done about the rising homelessness in our communities, not just because the reports and the statistics say so, but because we could see with our own eyes that the issue is getting worse with each year that goes by. Next slide, please. I understand that when it comes to the 100 Vic encampment, Council has been trying to determine and working on the best way forward for more than 3 years now. Today's meeting is an important one. You've invited us here to share our thoughts on your next steps. So I posed a question to those in our group who are residents of Waterloo Region and therefore your constituents. I asked them, given that a court told the region in January 2023 and again in May 2026 that homeless residents at the 100 Vic encampment cannot be evicted because doing so in the absence of adequate accessible shelter space is a violation of their charter rights, and given that as of June 2026, the number of shelter beds across the region is still less than half of what's needed. I actually think this number is an underestimate for the 1,400 plus people who are currently homeless. And the wait time for subsidized housing is approximately 10 years. What do you want to say to that? Or what do you want Council to know? And what do you want to ask them? I promised them that their responses would be anonymous. And like I shared before, their politics vary and their viewpoints vary, but I'd like to share with you what they sent. I care about making sure people aren't left living on the streets. My question to Council would be, what is the plan to increase support, shelter, and affordable housing so we can create long-term solutions? I didn't know that the number of homeless people is so astonishingly high in the region. That's really sad and shocking. Why do you value human life so low? I would want to know why they have waited so long to get more beds and shelters set up if they have known for 3 years that they need them in order to address the encampment issues. I would also want to know what system do they have in place to make sure no one is abusing the subsidized housing, and what plans they have to get that wait list down to a reasonable number. Based on the data of subsidized housing being almost a 10-year wait and only less than half the beds being available, it's important to tackle the root problem and look into case studies of other regions in Ontario and what requires iteration and what has worked.
Suhanya, I gave you a little bit extra time because it was a slow start. We didn't start the timer until you started talking, so if you can sum up now, that would be great.
Sure. Maybe I'll just pick one more quote. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I understand government needs time to make change, but what is being done towards that direction? And what are the smallest changes government is doing for the larger goal? The smallest changes that are impactful and visible. If this is the current problem, how does the government prepare for future onset of recession in our Canadian economy? So to wrap up, next slide, please, or final slide, please. This is a story, as I said at the beginning, of people coming together over shared values and long-standing bonds, of people being willing to bring both compassion and curiosity to an issue that is as devastating as it is frustrating. I hope Council has found it helpful to see how people in your community are coming together to meet the moment and to fill gaps that shouldn't exist in a city, a province, and a country as prosperous as ours. We hope that you too will meet the moment as you decide on your next steps. Thank you so much for your time, for the accommodation around the slide deck, and the additional few seconds that you gave me at the end, Chair Redmond.
Thank you. I have no questions. The next delegation is Vanessa Haynes Donater from Kitchener, and again, it is a pre-recorded delegation, so please watch the monitors.
Hi, it's Vanessa Haynes Donater. Hoping that we can secure a place to stay. I believe that anyone in the community that's homeless deserves a chance. So here's to the best. Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was brief. The next delegation is Julian Ickham. Julian, you're here in person from Kitchener, and you have 5 minutes.
I'd like to start by talking about the Nuremberg Principle. Now, the Nuremberg Principle happened after World War II as a result of the genocide of communists, Jews, Romanies, and many others. The idea behind the Nuremberg Principle is that you can't just say, I was told to. You can't just allow genocide to happen without doing nothing, that you yourself are responsible for what is happening. And I would argue that there is a genocide of poor people happening in Kitchener-Waterloo. When we're having 10 to 30 overdoses a day as a result of the shutting down of the safe injection site, when we're having people being murdered and raped on the streets of Kitchener, as happened 2 weeks ago to the woman many of us know with the dog that hangs out outside of Shoppers, and nothing is being done. When we're having people freezing or not dying because of lack of access to medical services, I'd say that there is a class war going on and a genocide going on. And this genocide is happening towards poor people. I find it funny that we're coming to council and begging you or asking you or thanking you to enact a court ruling by a judge. This is a federal decision. And once again, you are trying to back out of this by putting the blame on Doug Ford, not challenging the notwithstanding clause, and allowing human rights to be violated. What are human rights? Human rights are something we have because we are human. It's not something that we need to work to merit. It's not a privilege. Simply because we are born as humans, we have basic rights. That includes the right to shelter fit for human beings. That includes the right not to be criminalized when we are denied shelter and are forced to create our own encampments. People don't sleep in encampments because, they're a great place. They sleep at encampments because within the shelter system, there is violence. Within the shelter system, there is no sense of community, and people are being attacked, people are being robbed, and people are being beaten in their sleep, while we see a constant criminal turning a blind eye to these things by shelter workers, many of them who abuse the rights of the people that they're supposed to be served. Now, in terms of, how much money we've spent on homelessness, I was part of the pit count, and many people from the pit count that we were counting, we weren't allowed to include because the question was, on this day, do you have a place to stay? If they were staying at a friend's or something, then, the thing was ended. But despite this, the pit count doubled. So the amount of homeless people doubled. You have a responsibility to all people who live in Kitchener-Waterloo, not just those with money. By reneging this responsibility, you are in violation of the Nuremberg principles, and you are participating in this genocide. I'd like to give two examples, Julius Streicher and Eichmann. Eichmann didn't kill Jewish people. He didn't kill Romas. What he did was he built tracks. He built railroad tracks. But because these railroad tracks were part of the Holocaust, Eichmann was indicted. Julius Streicher was a newspaper writer. He wrote fascist stuff, and the way in which he talked about Romas, the way in which he talked about communists and Jews created the atmosphere that led to the genocide. Regional Council is creating an atmosphere that is continuing to allow this genocide to happen by actually taking the first court decision to court by saying that, we have done enough, by allowing the Ford government to take away our rights by the notwithstanding clause. You are allowing this to happen, and you have a moral responsibility.
Julian, you're out of time if you want one final statement.
Yeah. What will history say about this council 10, 20 years from now when we have the new Nuremberg trials?
Thank you, Julian. I have no questions. The next delegation is Tanyava Demiri, and you're in person. So welcome to the podium, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Tanavya Demri. I'm a computer science graduate from the University of Waterloo. I'm speaking today to request you to pass a safe tenting bylaw that would give the over 2,000 homeless people in the region a last resort with some dignity and support. It is the responsibility of not just the community, who has been spending so much of their own time and effort in mutual aid to provide the basic essential needs of vulnerable people. While it's not just the responsibility of us, but it is the responsibility of you as well. While there is a lot of talk from a legal point of view about protecting human rights, we simply cannot expect poverty-stricken people who have no support to be able to function properly in society without their material needs being met. Every one of us has the privilege of support from family and friends. Then, not just the privilege of support from family and friends, but also food, clothing, and perhaps the most important to guarantee of all in our current society, a roof above our heads, before we can go out and get educated, find a job, and be successful. However, people at the bottom of society do not have that privilege. I come from India, a country where I've seen firsthand even more rampant poverty and inequality, where people slip through the cracks every single day. Do we want the same situation here too? To solve homelessness, the solution cannot be to get rid of these people. We cannot take away their last resort. If we just ignore that these people exist, that does not mean they will cease to exist. We need to find a way to provide these people with a last resort. If we do not do that, they will find a way to survive. But it will only make it orders of magnitude harder to do so. Possibly some of them will die, especially as the next winter comes around. Is that what we want? As council members and our representatives, I hope that you do not want this. I do not want this. I want to fight back for their dignity and for their livelihood. Please take seriously all the research done and put into the plan to end chronic homelessness, and invest resources for a long-term solution that aims to end homelessness rather than just treat the symptoms. However, as a short-term solution for harm reduction and to save lives, please pass a safe tenting bylaw so we can have a decriminalized camping site with support systems in place. Lastly, please stand up to Premier Ford and his threats to use the notwithstanding clause to forcibly clear out the encampment. That would only lead to tragedy. That would not only lead to tragedy, but set up the wrong precedent for further violations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no questions, so thank you for delegating. The next delegation is Lynn Intini from Kitchener. And Lynn, I believe you're here in person. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Hello. I've previously been told there's no need to investigate any aspect of encampment evictions in Cambridge because there's shelter spaces. This was during discussions about how safe it is to evict people in extreme weather, which we were told doesn't happen. This was said during a meeting which delegates could not attend in person for the safety of council, a situation which lasted for weeks. Many of us disagreed vehemently, but we were told the reports say that there's shelter spaces available. There's places to go. In reading evidence provided to Justin Gibson, I think I found part of the confusion. Shelter occupants, and I'm quoting, shelter occupancy numbers are not 100% accurate. Shelter beds are counted as full or empty in the morning, and shelters have curfew times. If a person accessing shelter does not show up before curfew time, that bed would be counted as empty, even though staff would not give the bed to anyone who is staying for a few days. Is this in addition to allegedly empty beds that were not available during shelter renovations? Is this where the allegedly empty beds are coming from that people are supposed to go to? Of the 24/7 shelters where you don't have to leave during the day, 20 out of 200 are for women and gender diverse people. They are always full. When there's not shelter, these folks sleep rough in remote locations to avoid detection. Some resume unsafe, exploitative relationships and exchange sex for shelter, posing particular safety concerns for women and gender diverse folks. But this is much like one of the options the Regis generously offered. During cross-examination, Commissioner Sweeney admitted the region no longer places women or gender diverse people at one of the 4 motels due to reports of sexual coercion and exploitation by motel staff under threat of eviction. Thank you for no longer sending women into trafficking. But this does not solve the problem. Trafficking like this is a criminal act, and yet what criminal charges will this motel owner face? It seems this criminal is still being paid by the region. The region's told Justice Gibson they are not prepared to decriminalize survival camping somewhere else, so folks tenting will be more likely to face carceral punishment for their survival than a human trafficker. Bylaw amendments were made to improve compliance with human rights, including best efforts to create IHPs, which the region describes as personalized plans designed to match individuals with housing options reflecting their specific needs and preferences. However, Justice Gibson notes that 3 IHPs on record don't support that contention to offer emergency shelter spaces, one of which the recipient could not accept because the spaces did not accommodate couples. The third offered a motel space. All 3 are undated, consist of only a few lines, and offer no information as to what the unnamed recipient's specific needs and preferences are. Impressive. But the region's lawyers claimed it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's charter compliant. Continuing with, if it's found to fall short, the region seeks a realistic roadmap from the court as to any further steps it must take. So Justice Gibson has now affirmed for you to follow the PESH recommendation of safe tenting. Why did the lawyers repeatedly make this offer? Please, surprise us all and implement safe tenting. The Premier has continued the existing path of not funding community supports, only promises of jail cells, with punitive and divisive rhetoric of deserving and undeserving. If you choose not to enable decriminalized camping protocols, you risk a legal precedent of a last resort from being a thing. This is about a last resort to prevent folks from being criminalized. And you're asking us to advocate to the province, a man who throws a temper tantrum when a Superior Court judge doesn't do as he wants and demands party members vote with a party or be dismissed. Why aren't you doing everything you can possibly do to thwart a Premier who is making every choice to destroy our environment, children's schools, the healthcare system, erodes tenant protections that keep people housed, and is threatening our democracy while changing laws to prevent transparency? When is the last time he's done anything good for our communities? And I don't mean promise something good. I mean something that actually turned out to make things better for people and has followed through on what he alleges he's going to do.
Thank you, Lynn. I have no questions. The next delegation is Jakara Droog from Kitchener. Jakara, I believe you're here in person. You have 5 minutes and the podium is yours.
Not as tall as Tanner, but it's okay. Just before I begin, I'd like to add that only 6 residents from 100 Vic have been housed in permanent housing, and others are in temporary accommodation, and this evidence comes from the undertakings through the court process. Good morning, Council. My name is Jakara, and over the past 3 years, I have spent countless hours in community with residents of 100 Vic. Since the encampment's inception, ordinary community members have done everything we can to make life a little more survivable for people living there. We've purchased water, food, tents, sleeping bags, survival gear, harm reduction, and sometimes given the clothes off our backs to help keep people alive. We have driven residents to medical appointments, visited people in hospital, and brought food to those relocated to motels who are struggling with food insecurity. We have been there as a shoulder to cry on and listened to residents share their experiences and trauma. Many of us have been there late into the night calling First Connect to find shelter beds that were not available and have had to break the devastating news that none were available. We've helped people set up tents in the dark late at night when they had nowhere else to go. We've brought meals to people who have not eaten all day. We've shown up during extreme heat waves, bitter cold and winter storms, and severe weather because people's lives depended on it. In doing so, we've come to know the residents of 100 Vic not as a policy issue, but as our neighbors, our friends, and as our loved ones. That is why it is so painful to watch this conversation continue to be framed around enforcement, removal, and punishment. In contrast, while the community has been trying to keep people alive, this council passed a punitive bylaw and used our tax dollars to pursue legal action against some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Justice Gibson ultimately found that bylaw to be unconstitutional. Appealing that decision will not house a single person or address chronic homelessness. Invoking the notwithstanding clause won't either. It will inevitably result in locking human beings in cages for the crime of being poor. Neither option will create affordable housing, increase income supports, improve access to healthcare, or address the conditions that led people to become unhoused in the first place. What these options do accomplish, though, is directing more public resources toward fighting people who have already been failed by multiple systems. As community members, we are absolutely exhausted. For years, advocates, frontline workers, researchers, and people with lived expertise have consistently identified the interventions that reduce homelessness and improve safety. Yet we continue to spend enormous amounts of time here debating how to remove people from the only legal place of last resort available to them when they have nowhere else to go. I'm also deeply troubled by the process that has brought us here. This meeting was called on short notice, during working hours, and separate from the regular council meeting. Public participation shouldn't be treated as a procedural hurdle to clear after major decisions have already been discussed behind closed doors. This approach further erodes public trust in a council that many residents already feel disconnected from. I'd normally stand here and ask council not to appeal Justice Gibson's decision and not to support the notwithstanding clause if I thought it would actually make a difference. But consistently, we've watched this council discuss important decisions in camera and then performatively invite public input after positions appear already settled. Nevertheless, I'm here because the public record matters. And for the record, I'm asking you to focus your efforts on the methods that experts and folks with lived expertise have repeatedly told you will reduce homelessness and improve safety. To wrap up, I'd like to share the words of my friend Dwayne, a resident of 100 Vic, who asked me to read this heartfelt statement to you on his behalf, and I hope I'm allowed to have time for that. It's not easy. It's really hard out here. Everyone here goes through something every day. We have to have somewhere we can actually live and be a family and a community. It is not easy here, and we get robbed, but you're making it harder. This impacts more than the encampment. It impacts everyone in the community who is homeless. If you take it away, you're going to have more people staying in isolated areas of the community, at City Hall, on doorsteps. It's going to get worse. The encampment is a comforting place and a place where people belong. We save each other, we look out for each other. You can try to take this away, but you can't take away our community and our sense of comfort and belonging. We don't want people scared in the streets. We are not bothering people, and we need somewhere to belong. If you take it away, you will make us feel hopeless. This is about safety for us and for other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakara. We do have a question. Councillor Shantz.
Excuse me. Thank you for coming in today. Looking at the safe tenting protocols in some other jurisdictions, they're often limited to a small number of tents together. Can you speak to how that would work with the community here?
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm personally qualified to answer that. I think folks like Dr. Laura Pinn, who spoke earlier, have provided you research previously that could speak to that better than I could. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming as a delegation. The next three delegations registered after the timeline, so they will get 3 minutes. And the first one is Sid McDonald from Kitchener. Sid, are you here? Welcome to the podium. You have 3 minutes.
I'm short, sorry. Okay, hi, thank you so much for the time to speak with you today. I'm delegating as an individual, but I do want to say that I was one of the people who did work with Laura Pinn on her project. I went out with my colleague in the community and conducted, together we did dozens of interviews, surveys with folks. And we heard a lot about how displacement affected them. Laura talked about people losing their phone. People couldn't find their outreach worker couldn't find them. And this whole strategy of displacing people for whatever reason, is counterintuitive to what a lot of people want, which is to end homelessness. We can see that. If somebody can't find their outreach worker, how are they going to be connected to services? And really, you don't have to displace people. The judge told you that there is a solution. Just as Joanna said, it is possible to build the transit hub still. You can do it while complying with the charter. And while we are a two-tier municipality, there are all of the mayors around this circle as well. So I hope you can work together to approach this safe tenting protocol. There was a question regarding that a parking lot is not appropriate and that housing is better able to meet human rights, I believe, and that's not verbatim, but I think I can speak for a lot of people here that we agree. We don't want people to live in encampments. But when we have people staying in shelter for years now because there's no housing to transition into, we've created a bottleneck where now the shelters are full. So people who are newly homeless or who have been restricted from shelter now have nowhere to go. That's why we have the encampment, and that's why it's important to have a place of last resort. So I'm urging you today, please don't appeal this decision by Justice Gibson. Don't waste the resources that could be used to go into asking staff to explore this protocol or discussing with each other how you could do something so that we're not displacing people and so that people are connected to services that ultimately find them housing. I also urge you to be the leaders that I know you are and push back against Doug Ford. He has done a lot of things. We know that our chair is now going to be appointed. I think we can take more of a stand, and I think we can do it together. So I'm going to thank you for my time. I'm at the end of my time. That's what I'm urging you to do.
Sid, thank you very much for delegating. I have no questions, but thank you for being here.
Thanks.
The next delegation also has 3 minutes. Ratika Shirmali. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ritika. I work at the Social Development Center as a program coordinator of Civic Hub program. And I'm reading this press release on behalf of the organization that I work for. In light of Council's impending response to the Gibson decision, the Social Development Center is back at Council to call for a safe tenting framework. In February, we submitted 1,820 signatures calling for a safe tenting framework. The key role of a safe tenting framework is to act as the option of last resort for all the people unable to access the housing stability system. We call these people supportless because their life, their right to life, liberty, and security of the person is threatened. When my colleagues talk to you and your colleagues at the lower tier municipalities about safe tenting, we heard that the biggest hesitation on implementing a safe tenting framework is the struggle to find suitable locations at a scale to meet the number of people becoming supportless. We believe this hesitation is rooted in the misconception of safe tenting as be-all solution, when we all know that it is not. As the option of last resort, safe tenting is one puzzle piece in the solution. It catches the people falling through the gaps into supportlessness. A safe tenting framework is not a relief from homelessness. Living in a tent is still substandard shelter. However, it's a relief from homelessness. It allows people to access a base level of service to manage their survival and dignity. It gives them a place to legally exist. It's the option of last resort. When paired with other interventions, the number and size of safe tenting zones needed can be reduced to a far more manageable experience. That is why we are encouraging you to see safe tenting as just one pillar of a supportlessness relief strategy. A supportless relief strategy pairs safe tenting with multiple 24/7 low hub barrier hubs and some key reforms to the shelter and transitional housing systems. The current shelter and transitional housing systems are ill-equipped to handle any increasingly traumatized populations. We need reforms that take into account the risk of supportlessness. We need low barrier spaces to allow the spaces with barriers to also thrive. This is where our proposed 24/7 low barrier hubs framework comes in, an idea being developed by the Continuum of Care constellation within the Plan to End Chronic Homelessness. It builds on the success of programs like A Better 10 Cities, Visitor Policy, and the low barrier warming centers run by the Porchlight and Thresholds. Supporting the sustainability of these programs into 24/7 low barrier spaces is a key puzzle piece to allow safe tending zones to remain an open of last resort. Both are required. A safe tending framework is needed. We have to have an option of that last resort to act as a foundation for a fundamental human right. But it is not only one piece of a bigger process to stop the rise of supportlessness. Taken as a whole, the scale and impact of safe tenting zones is put into context. There is no need to fear massive tent cities. Alongside pumped up and reformed programs that already exist, we can keep the option of last resort as an option of last resort. Thank you.
Thank you very much for delegating. I see no questions, so the next delegation is Jacob Stubbs. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chair and Councillors. My name is Jacob. I'm speaking in good faith today, not only as a resident of the region, but as an individual with some personal experience living at the 100 Victoria Street encampment, as well as directly supporting and advocating for our neighbors living there in similar circumstances in the region. I have some firsthand experience of the measures taken and not taken by the region regarding such encampment. Over the past several years, residents have watched two important public priorities become unnecessarily pitted against one another: providing dignified options for people experiencing homelessness and building the transit infrastructure our region needs for its future. The transit hub, as you may agree, is an important public project. It should make mobility more accessible, reduce car dependency, be an important step towards a more resilient and less carbon-intensive society, and help build a more connected region. But the people at the encampment should never have been pushed into a position where their basic survival appears to be in such conflict with that goal. Last month, Justice Gibson made clear that the region cannot simply remove people without a lawful alternative. More importantly, the court also identified possible solutions: a safe tenting protocol, a reasonably proximate alternative site, or both. In other words, this council has options. What concerns me the most is that public discussion now seems increasingly focused on whether the province may intervene rather than on whether the region will act. Waiting for Doug Ford to step in using emergency powers does not remove responsibility from local decision makers. The court has already outlined a path forward. Choosing not to pursue it would itself be a choice. If that choice leads to further conflict, further litigation, or further harm to vulnerable residents, the public will rightfully ask why other options provided to you were not seriously pursued. This is not a question of choosing between housing justice and public transit. It is a question of whether we are willing to do the work necessary to advance both of those with grace. I am asking Council to move forward with a safe tenting protocol or identify a lawful alternative site that respects people's autonomy and engages directly with residents and service providers to develop a serious solution. The court has provided a roadmap. The many of us affected by this issue have waited long enough. Please use the tools that are already available to you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jacob. We have a question. Councillor James.
Thank you through you, Chair. Jacob, thank you for coming in and speaking. Not often easy coming and delegating to any council, and for sharing that you had resided at 100 Vic, if I heard correctly. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so and going to ask these questions and Choose to answer them if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm going to preface it with that. In your opinion, and with you, having that lived experience, is it safe? Is it humane? And I just want to preface this because we've had delegations speak about attacks happening there, safety, and I mean, and that's hearsay, and this is why I want to ask you directly, and that's why I said you do not have to answer this. But we've heard people come in and speak to situations and, and trying to find a place of last resort that is safe for people, that is humane for people, that is dignified. And I'm conscious of that when people do not have a place to sleep, a place to feel safe. So I would love to hear kind of your perspective if you want to.
Yeah, thank you. I actually respect that question. I do keep in mind like the holistic factors of like how you have to make decisions and keeping all these factors in mind. I think like a key aspect that gets lost through the lens of like government and the state is the factor of autonomy and choice for people when there is limited options, right? Like, obviously there's like flaws with any decision. I think a key thing here is that when people are choosing one option over another, that choice in and of itself is one that allows for the decision of safety to be in the hands of those residents, right? Yeah, I think like choice is like a key theme there. I think like a lot of the methods of like throwing funding and policing and all these kinds of things, like through the lens of government and the state and like the powers that you have, makes sense that those decisions are made through that lens, but providing an alternative to give people the choice for themselves is a key thing. Having housing that is, like proper shelter and all these things is like an important factor. And I do respect that is something that provides safety for people, but ultimately giving people the choice of what is most safe for them is ultimately one that puts less pressure on, in my opinion, all factors involved, all parties involved, and basically threads the needle in giving people the most safe option. And yeah, I hope that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for providing your insight and your lived experience today. Did you know that Ontario is the only province in Canada that does not fully fund the cost of supportive housing and shelter costs?
I didn't. I don't necessarily see it as like an argument to avoid like providing alternatives and options, but
I agree with you. I just feel that putting all of the housing resources on the municipality is not the answer, because also property taxes are not geared to income. So I hear you, I'm with you, and I really hope that Ontario will follow the lead of other provinces across Canada and provide more funding for more supportive housing options. Because again, everybody deserves more than a parking lot to live in. Thank you.
So Jacob, I think that literally was a did you know question. I don't know if you want to respond.
I'll keep it brief. Yeah, I just think that the emphasis on continuing to provide a solution through the lens of people not directly like actually dealing with it, like the key thing is that the choice of the people dealing with the issue in and of itself gets erased when we constantly kind of override it in the sense of like choosing what is dignified for other people through the lens of the state is kind of a problem that ironically defeats kind of the point of those goals that are legitimately stated of providing people dignity and safety and stuff like that. That's just my perspective, and yeah.
Thank you. If I could just make one more comment, Chair Edmund.
Quick.
I do not want to evict anyone, but I feel that approving the safe tenting bylaw sends the message to the community and to the province that this is good enough, and it's not.
Okay, that was a comment. Thank you, Jacob. Those are all the questions we have. So thank you, Jacob. And we have one more delegation. I'm going to call Jason Fitzgerald from Kitchener. We called you earlier and you weren't here, so you're in the 5-minute category. So the floor is yours and you have 5 minutes.
Excuse me. Good morning. I apologize. I ran out of power on my phone and I didn't wake up. I live at 100 Victoria Street North. I've been a resident of Waterloo region for 51 years. I lived in Cayman for the last 2 years now. I apologize, I'm in a little bit of pain, sorry. I've worked since I was 14 years old. Until 7 years ago, where I was injured at work and I lost my job due to I worked for a company in this town that when I broke my back, I was targeted and basically fired because I was put on restrictions for life. I went through all of what I could. I broke my back. I got put on pills. I took those pills. I tried to go through rehab. The rehab was too expensive. And I was continued to stay on medication. That medication became way too much. And I found alternative ways to deal with my pain. The problem that I've noticed down at the tents is mental health, people dealing with pain, people losing their jobs. This council doesn't understand what it is to live on the streets. I dare you, any one of you, to take 2 months and live off ODSP or ODSP and live on the streets. I dare any one of you to feel that shame of how it is to depend on someone else to live your life. I had everything. I had a car, trailer, motorcycles, boats. I've lost all my stuff 3 times now, and I have nothing but a backpack and a tent. That every night I go to bed and hope that I don't lose the rest of what I have right now. And to say that you guys want to criminalize people for having to be on the streets by not their own fault is ridiculous. Wake up, okay? It's ridiculous. Anyone in this city is one paycheck away of being where I am.
I'm going to ask you to please restrain from clapping. Jason, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm one paycheck. 11,421 people are without homes right now. Is that what the paper said the other day? Does anybody know? Almost 11,500 people. You know what their alternatives is? The Victoria Inn, the Mayflower, the other 2 Weber. Have you guys been in any of these places? Do you know what they're living in? I've sat in a washroom where the toilet above me leaks on me. Cockroaches all over the place, bed bugs. You guys don't understand. This is what you guys are paying for, to help housing people. We have a place brand new, St. John's, with how many buildings over there with no funding? None. Not one single funding. You guys make this meeting this morning at a special time in the morning. You know how many people would have been here if this was a normal meeting at nighttime? This place would be roaring. I'm telling you that right now. That's a shame too. That's one thing I'm very disrespectful about. The one common factor down there, I'll say, is pain. I've seen a lot of people go through it. They get caught up. It's not the drugs. It's this government, the provincial government, the federal government that has failed this country. You bring in people from another country, you give them everything. The people that live here work their whole lives, and they get nothing. My brother, the surgery, you had a come from another country. He was pushed off his surgery date because a man got off the plane yesterday and needed surgery. This is how you treat your own citizens here in this country that have been here for forever. This is ridiculous.
Jason, you're out of time. Do you want to sum up? Is there a last
Okay, I'm
comment?
sorry. I just want to say that if you guys go down there and talk to the people that are in the encampment and all over shelters, that the government has failed us. People need to go through pain. The problem with pain is they'll give you the drugs. Will they give you the money to do the rehabilitation to get yourself better? No, they just leave you on the drugs. Those drugs become street drugs. That's where you come. Mental health is a huge problem, and I've seen it down there. I've talked to a girl that has mental health that lives in the encampment. She came down there and started doing $200 with confetti every single day because she thought she needed to fit in. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And if you want to know, counselor, if it's safe down there, it's safe because the people like me and other people, we make it safe. We protect those people. I make sure that they're doing drugs, but I make sure they have water. I make sure they're protected. I make sure they have clean needles. I'm the one that makes sure that stuff happens. We have people that come in there and cause trouble. We call the police. The police come and do nothing. Nothing. Nothing to protect us. So guess what happens? Violence happens to that person that comes in and tries to destroy our place. And then that person goes to jail. The person that lives there trying to protect his home. Right?
Jason, thank you very much, and thank you for coming in. Colleagues, we've heard a lot this morning, and it's been a long morning. Do we want a 5-minute bio break, or do we want to? Okay, so we're going to recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll reconvene. resume. And we're going to consider a motion from closed committee summary from June the 2nd, 2026, and clerks will now display it on the screen. I will read it. This is from closed committee recommends that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo appeal the decision of Ontario Superior Court Justice J. Gibson dated May 21st, 2026 in the matter of the Regional Municipality of Waterloo and named respondents court file, and it's a long number, to the Ontario Court of Appeal, and that the Chief Administrative Officer, in consultation with the Regional Solicitor, be authorized and directed to take all necessary steps and execute any required documentation to give effect to this resolution. If I have a mover and a seconder? Shame on you. Moved by Councillor Erb, seconded.
I'll second it, Chair.
Nowak, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Colleagues, are there any questions? So I'm going to ask the gallery to, if you want to have a conversation, please take it outside.
We're just making comments. It's okay. What was allowed? Not a question, comment.
So I'm not seeing any speakers, so we can move. Are you on eScribe? Okay. So Councillor Wolf, go ahead.
Okay. I understand Council's frustration around the encampments of Victoria and Weber, but let us choose a path that reflects who we are at our best. I'm speaking against Council pursuing appeal of Justice Gibson's ruling. We have spent far too much money on legal fees, staff, and council time. Our chances of winning the appeal are far from guaranteed. We are ignoring the solution offered by Justice Gibson and ignoring two rulings. Council should not count on Premier Ford's promise to use the notwithstanding clause if we lose the appeal. I find this unacceptable. Declaring the encampment illegal and evicting its residents is not a solution. Without protocols, we do not eliminate encampments. We simply make them more dangerous, more hidden, and more chaotic. This put lives at risk. Alongside the practical considerations, there is something even more fundamental, our commitment to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter exists to protect everyone, especially those who have the least power. It ensures that government actions remain fair, measured, and respectful of human rights. The Premier's suggestion of invoking the notwithstanding clause in this context is deeply concerning. Using the notwithstanding clause would mean deliberately overriding constitutional rights. It would send a message that the rights of people experiencing homelessness are negotiable. That is not a precedent we should be willing to set. Courts have please don't clap. Courts have increasingly recognized that forcibly removing people from encampments without offering adequate alternatives can violate charter protections relating to life, liberty, and security of the person. Invoking the notwithstanding clause in this section would not solve homelessness. It would not create housing. It would not address mental health and addiction challenges. It would simply strip away legal protection from people who are already vulnerable. This crisis requires compassion, evidence-based policy, and respect for human dignity, not constitutional shortcuts. To those who came today to speak, thank you for reminding us of our shared responsibility to care for one another and to uphold the values that defend us. Again, let us choose a path that reflects who we are at our best. And I have no doubt that everyone on council cares and is trying to do their best. But a community that protects rights, that leads with empathy, and that refuses to leave anyone behind is what we aspire to.
Councillor James.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I want to thank all the delegates who took the time to speak today. I also want to thank our staff. The regional staff have been working on this. I want to also acknowledge the significant commitment and care that is being expressed, that has been expressed for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, living rough within our community. I've listened closely to the perspectives shared throughout the discussion. There is no question that there is a deep commitment, concern, and shared desire to find humane and effective solutions. In my view, a tenting protocol may have made sense as a proactive measure prior to the decision to proceed with court action regarding 100 Victoria. However, we're not operating in that earlier context anymore. We are now within an active legal and operational process, and that reality constrains the options before us. I also want to be clear that I do not believe the courts or a tenting protocol alone will resolve the underlying challenges we are facing. We are dealing with a much broader systemic housing, shelter operations, operating beyond our capacity. The closure of CTS sites, reduced funding with a significant shortfall of supportive housing units, strained agencies who do not have the resources to meet the growing needs. At the same time, we are seeing growing pressures on seniors who are at risk, youth who are at risk, those who, as we have heard, face injury at work and are one paycheck away, where other levels of government and coordination have really not kept pace with the need. I also want to recognize that this is not simply a municipal issue. We are operating within a two-tiered system that requires alignment across area municipalities and provincial partners. Without that alignment, even well-intended local solutions are difficult to implement effectively. I want to acknowledge that I do not support the court injunction. I didn't, but this is what's been dealt. Some of us walked into this situation. That said, we are in a process underway. So I do remain committed and open to some community-based solutions, as we've heard today. In fact, I've been encouraged by outreach from private residents offering space and potential partnerships to support those currently. Well, I supported the idea of a tenting protocol while presented by Councillor Pam Wolf, and she knows that I support that, and it was defeated. And so now we're working with direct decisions that have already been made. And I believe this solution must go beyond a single policy tool. It will require coordinated actions across government, sustained investment in housing and supports, and a commitment to addressing the root causes of homelessness rather than its most visible symptoms. If we have better employment standards, perhaps Jason would not be where he is today. So this is deeply systemic, it's deeply national, and it's affecting people all across this country. And I do not want to be doing performative things knowing that the outcome is not going to be what we intend.
Councillor Gowing, Councillor James, you're done?
Thank you, Chair, I am done.
Okay, I'm going to ask please, if you're here to listen, that's great. If you want to have a conversation, please take it elsewhere. There are people who are watching online and it becomes very difficult to follow the conversation. Councillor Gowing.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start by saying that to all the delegates, thanks for coming in today. I do hear you. My view on this has changed since I joined Regional Council in August. I spent time listening, learning, and looking at how other communities are trying to respond to homelessness and encampments. I do not believe encampments are a housing solution. They're not. But I also cannot ignore the reality that people are living outside in our community. We need a better, clearer, and more humane way to respond. We need to protect public spaces, but we also need to protect human dignity. We need to support residents and businesses, but we also need to recognize that people living outside are still members of this community. I also want to be clear that this cannot only be about how we respond when someone is already living outside. We need to keep working on the housing side of this issue as well. That is why I have brought forward and supported work around looking at municipal housing corporation and other ways the region can create more sustainable housing solutions. If we only focus on what happens after people are already in encampments, we are dealing with the symptom, not the cause. This is a difficult issue, but I think we need to move beyond only reacting. We need a framework that is fair, practical, and compassionate. And we need long-term housing solutions that actually reduce the need for encampments in the first place. I also want to explain why I am supporting the appeal. For me, this is not about turning our backs on the vulnerable people. It's about a legal clarity. I believe this ruling could have very broad impacts, not only on the region of Waterloo, but the municipalities across Ontario and Canada. Municipalities need to understand that what authority they have, what responsibilities they have, and how to balance public land, public safety, infrastructure, shelter access, and the rights of people living unsheltered. At the same time, I do not believe an appeal is enough on its own. We need to do, what we need is to do public policy. We need clearer rules, better supports, and a stronger framework for how we respond when people are living outside and do not have a safe, accessible, and appropriate indoor options. So I can support the appeal for legal clarity while also saying clarity at the region needs to do more.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I want to thank the 30+ people who came to speak with us today. I woke up this morning feeling like we're stubbing our toe on this issue time and time again. And we have a 90-page roadmap to do what we wanted to do last year, which is advance an important public project, but also care for the people at 100 Victoria. And so we have a roadmap, we have a path forward. It plays right into the hand of, there's so many other legal matters in front of the courts across the province right now that so many of us would stand behind, whether it's the size of councils or the ability for municipal decisions on bike lanes, all of these types of decisions. We need to let the court process play out, and we have a decision. So let's let that decision be our roadmap. And if, I think to one of the delegates who said, if the province wants to do something, let them. Thanks, Chair.
So, colleagues, it's been moved and seconded. I have no further councillors who want to speak, so please cast your ballot.
Chair, I don't have access to eScribe, but I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Salonen. Colleagues, that is carried. I would turn your attention to correspondence under 6.1 to 6.3. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to draw your attention to correspondence which we have received, items 6.1 to 6.3. I now will consider a motion to enact the bylaws first, second, and third readings, and this is to confirm all the actions of today's special council meeting. If I could have a mover, moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Nowak. Please use your e-scribe to vote, and we are ratifying the decisions that have been made.
In favor, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Salonen. Colleagues, that is carried. I now need a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Gowing, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Do I have unanimous consent for this meeting to be adjourned?
Yes.
Thank you all very much.